fishing in Canada. Yes, we're in for some good fishing in Canada.
Good day there. You put us a profile, okay? Kind of caught you off
I was
guard.
giving you some profile. How are you, buddy?
Good, man. How about you?
Good. Great episode today. I've been dying for this one for a while.
Oh my God, yeah, Kevin. He's such a character, isn't he?
Oh, before we get into that, some housekeeping. First of all, hello everybody. Welcome to Friday.
Yeah,
it's Friday.
Yes, we love our Fridays, don't we? The whole world loves Fridays.
We do.
Yes.
I wish I could say it was Friday of a long weekend, but that was last weekend apparently.
Yeah, for those
some of you had long weekends.
Some of them had a long weekend. Correct.
All right. I've got a whole list of things that we need to go over before we start working today. Number one, this week.
Any surprises on me? What are you doing here? You better not spring any surprises on me.
No, I would never do
that. Under pressure. Okay. Go ahead.
I know how you like your, no stress. Exactly. Nice and easy. I ease you into things. I try not to disrupt the apple cart.
You make me hit the crack pipe halfway through this segment, buddy. We're in trouble.
This week's hot spots. I guess we're announcing hot spots every week now.
Well, whenever they go up on the site, they might not be every week, but whenever they do, a new one comes up. We should tell everybody that's on there. So.
Okay, cool. St. Mary's River up in Sault Ste. Marie is this week's featured hotspots. We have 2 episodes on the site that we produced on that river.
Correct.
And each one of them has a hotspot. Thank you.
Oh, that better not be a Starbucks. Then the only Starbucks that comes in this building, because look who did. Hey, somebody out there is going to get in hell.
That was young Nicky.
Oh, no. Okay, that's all right. He can't afford 2 of them. I get that, but that's
no kidding. I don't even know how he can afford 1. To be honest, I can't afford
it. St. Mary's River. Very quickly, folks. And it's going to come up again later on. Andrew's going to talk about something else, and I'll bring it up again. A fantastic fishery. It's unbelievable. It joins Lake Superior to Lake Huron, and it travels through Sault Ste. Marie. And we got on it with our buddy Tyler Dunn from up in that area. And it is unreal. It's not just a salmon and trout thing that you think of. It's got largemouth, smallmouth, walleye, muskie, pike, everything. It's unreal. The trout species, it is a really good river to fish. So if you're ever in the Sault Ste. Marie area, this hot spot will put you right on to some good fishing.
Not to downplay the importance and value that it brings to the salmon fishing community, by the way, because it is one of the very few places left in North America where, according to science, not personal preference, according to science, it's the one place left in this part of the world where an freshwater Atlantic salmon can actually go in there and go, oh, man, this feels really good.
You finally put me in the right spot.
You finally found a home for me.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the St. Mary's River, and they have some great returns. Of course, it also is the center for some of the greatest work that's being done with Atlantic salmon. The hatchery up there is world renowned.
On the U.S. side, correct?
On the U.S. side, but there is some Canadian stuff happening as well. Okay. The thing about the St. Mary's, and I don't want to make this a salmon, Atlantic salmon thing this week, but it has everything. It checks off all of the ticks off of the sheet that scientists require for Atlantic salmon to not only survive, but to thrive. And that includes temperature, obviously, forage, everything about that water is just perfect for Atlantic salmon. So if there's any place that we stand a chance at bringing back this fishery, it would be on the St. Mary's and St. Marie. So.
Absolutely. Very cool fish too.
Did you read the Sherry Haig blog, her first blog on the site?
I've not got that yet. I'm between her and Kevin right now.
It was great.
Was it?
It's called Real Women Do Fish. So you gotta. It's a great.
I like that.
Yeah, you got to check it out.
So what does real women mean? What does that mean? Real women, like the old saying used to be, "Real men don't eat quiche." Remember that one?
Well, it's funny. She references that in her blog.
Does she?
Yeah. You have to read it. You have to read it. And you know, it's a great question. Why would somebody call an article, why would they title it Real Women? Meaning, like, if you don't fish, you're not a real woman?
Not a real woman. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I think what she's trying to do with this, and why it's such a good read, is that it's okay. It's okay for women to like fishing. It's okay for women to go out and dig up worms if you're going to use, you know, natural baits. It's okay for women to go out and dig up worms, and it's okay to impale them on a hook and throw it in the water and catch a fish. It's perfectly legit. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's what she's trying to say throughout the whole piece. Well, you know, she adds the sex appeal to the whole thing by, you know, sharing with her life in the world of fishing, because don't forget, Sherry is the one that gave everything up at a certain point in her life to go travel around the world enjoying outdoor activities like fishing.
Yeah.
And so that part of the read is fascinating. I remember interviewing her when she first came back from that break from real life, we'll call it, and having her on the radio program and discussing it with her. I was just fascinated then, and I'm still fascinated now, because quite frankly, it's something I've always wanted to do, but never had the balls to do it. And I would just say, the hell with it. You know, I'm locking it up, and I'm out of here. So, but it's a real good read.
Good.
Kevin, you said you're reading Kevin's piece that's up there now.
Kevin's, another solo trip adventure, and all his stuff is really good. Obviously, people are gonna learn about Kevin's personality now more so. They've read his blogs now, and if they haven't heard him on the radio show, they're gonna see what kind of a character this guy really is. He's just energy galore, and he exudes that in his pieces. You know what I mean? He's got a YouTube channel too, and all that. We'll get to all that kind of stuff. So, but it's Kevin. People are going to enjoy Kevin for sure, because he loves fishing too. It's not just about canoeing. Kevin loves fishing. He loves consuming fish. He catches one out on a canoe adventure, and that's part of his whole trip is eating some of the fish, etc. So
we'll get to all that and more about Kevin. Just want to remind folks about the 9.9 contest that's on, or 9.9, the Mercury.
You say that every week. You say that.
I've been giving away so many Mercury motors the last 18 months. I get confused. I'm getting old too, right? We are giving away also a boat, motor, and trailer, a Princecraft 14-foot Yukon with a 20 horsepower Merc 4-stroke engine and a trailer. That's all happening at fishingcanada.com. All you have to do is go there and press the contest button and answer a skill testing question, which if you don't know the answer, you can get the answer. Per category.
Skill testing is per category, right? You got to go for the 2.5, and you got to go for.
Well, there's two separate contests. I'm glad you brought that up, right? It's two separate contests. So once you've done one, then click on the other and do it for the other, and now you're in both contests. And you need to be in both contests every day, because last month's winner from Edmonton, Alberta, had 500 ballots in the box. So he's been a regular every day. So there you go. James Mills, what is this? My sister-in-law woke me up at 5 a.m. yesterday to go trout fishing, and then schooled me by catching her limit in about an hour. Should have married her. Whoa, okay. that might be an interesting topic.
That's a real woman right there. She wakes the guys up to go fishing and then outfishes them. That's a real woman. I like that. We got a new shore fishing blog coming up. Should be up today. We're hoping for it to be today or this weekend, very soon. Shore fishing in Northern Ontario. So if anybody from Northern Ontario is looking for some shore ideas, or if you're traveling to the north, sometimes, a lot of travel now is in your own province. If you're from Ontario, Southern Ontario, you're traveling north to stay in the province. We're going to have a blog out with our top 5 or 5 top, we'll say, shore places to fish in Northern Ontario. It's not as easy as Southern Ontario. Let's just say that, because the North Country, there's a lot more water, there's a lot bigger water, but there's a lot less access. So you got to be, you got to kind of pick and choose.
Wow,
right?
That's interesting.
Think about that. You look at the Nipissing River. You're thinking either it's totally desolate, or how is there any shore fishing? But there's lots of shore fishing available, but it's in certain little areas of it, right? So not like Lake Ontario along the GTA here, where you can go pretty much anywhere. So yeah, so that's coming up too. And we want to make sure everybody if you can do a little share for us as we're doing this broadcast. Everybody, if you're watching us through Facebook or whatever, just give it a little share. Hey, guess what? Ange and Peter talking. Throw it out to some people on your page or whatever. Let's try to get more people involved here. The more the merrier for us too, obviously, right? We get more questions on the side, and Kevin gets more views, et cetera, et cetera. So please help share us and let us know where you're from too. If you come in new or you're there now and haven't been here in a while, let us know where you're calling from or you're watching from. So,
Well,
see that?
all right. Without further ado, let's bring on this week's guest. He has been working with me on Outdoor Journal Radio for a number of years now. I first talked to Kevin, I want to say 7-8 years ago as a guest on Outdoor Journal Radio, and immediately became attached to this guy. You'll see why here shortly. He's first of all, in terms of an author, he is one of the best in our industry in the outdoors. The way he can articulate these stories, these personal adventures he's had in the outdoors is next to none. And it's just one of those reads, one of those books that you have a hard time putting down. We've all known those books that when you started, it's got to be read right to the end. And Kevin's books, which he'll talk to us about here when he comes on, are exactly that. But more importantly, if you ever have a chance to meet him in person at a live event, or even at some of these web-based interviews that he does, you'll see exactly what I mean. Let's bring him on now. His name is Kevin Callan. He is the Happy Camper. Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing, buddy?
How's it going, buddy?
Let's try this out.
What are you doing?
It's a sleeping bag with two heads.
And what do you do with that?
You do it
With someone.
for your husband and wife
Yeah.
or whatever. That's awesome, buddy. It's like cartoon characters.
Where are you, man?
I'm on my front porch. Shamong Lake's right there. I live in Bridge North, and my place is called The Hill because it's on a hill, but it was on sale, so I got it cheap. So.
Wow,
Good man.
Good for
Good
you.
man. Shamong's a great little lake too, by the way. Great fishing lake for anybody.
Yeah. Actually, Muskie Alley is right across from my house.
There you go.
I
I just told everybody where the spot is to catch muskie. Right, live.
Are you right on the causeway there? Are you right next to the causeway?
Causeway is just like maybe 2 blocks that way. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And tell me something. There used to be a great little tackle shop right at the
Bridge North.
causeway.
It's still there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's the only place I can find EGBs.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Like the old ones, not the new ones. The old ones. Yeah.
All right. Now that you brought EGBs up, before we get into you, I want you to, because you're probably next to me, you're probably the only other person who ever talks about EGBs. I want you to tell folks about the EGB spoon.
Oh, they're magical. They especially if you got the ones that probably 10, maybe even 20 years ago, you still got those in your tackle box. They do work better. I'm not sure what happened with when the company flipped, whatever, but I've seen knockoff ones, and I've been with my buddy that actually is the cheapest person in the world. Like this man is just like he'll buy a lure and then take it back, which doesn't catch any fish. It's unbelievable. So he bought a knockoff one, and he goes, "There's no difference." So we're on the Nipissing. I said, "Okay, I know there's trout in that hole. You go first." I cast, nothing. I casted 5 casts, 5 big trout. Yeah, the best one is the one with the black and the gold or black and silver with the red dots down the middle. So
Magic. Man, I don't know why. I mean, other than the fact that that little triangular little deal that it's hooked up to is
it's got to be with the spoon motion that is, because the cheaper one doesn't catch the fish it looks the same, but it's just the motion of the lure.
It's a spinner. There's probably has a bit of a spinner motion in it too, right? By it being on that little swivel, it's not just a spoon, right?
No.
So,
or it could be the angler using it.
Could be.
we're neglecting that too, and that is the most important part.
Yeah, in all fairness to that, I'll give you that, except I'm going to follow that up by saying it's pretty easy to be that angler when you put yourself in the most pristine waters on the planet like you do just about every week.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, it was amazing. The places I went to already this season, you can put your toe in the water and catch a fish. Like,
crazy.
yeah.
Not like last week's story. Don't put your toe on like last week's story we did. Oh my God. Oh.
We had a fish story last week, Kevin, about a woman. Her name is Kim Driver, and her husband Terry were on the Winnipeg River just outside of Menaki, and she was attacked by a muskie. So that's what we're referring to. Oh yeah, the first documented, real, honest to goodness, muskie attacking a person standing in the water happened. Yeah. So.
Wow. Pulled her under. Literally pulled her under the water. No kidding. This is a story.
Tell me that. I'm never going to go swimming up north again.
Exactly. You'll be both, brother.
Chemung Lake's got muskies, buddy. Be careful out there.
Oh,
okay, be careful.
I remember I was on Mississauga Lake up in Ogoma, and remote Mississauga River is paddling, and a loon had its chick, and if you approach a loon when it has a baby, they're very sensitive birds, and they'll abandon their baby just like that, right? So I'm solo, and the winds push me towards it. I'm trying to back pedal, and it doesn't work, so I get close to it. So the mom takes off, and a big northern pike came up and swallowed that loon whole. And I swear that whole night I'm camping on that lake. The mother loon is just pissed at me.
Oh yeah. Wow.
What a great. I'm glad you brought that up. Those are one of many special moments that take place in the outdoors that unfortunately most of us will never get a chance to experience, but they are so special that that stays with you the rest of your life. Being there at that moment, right? Yeah,
it's one of those. I mean, it was a terrible story, but why do we always tell those terrible stories, right? So, I always, I can tell you how beautiful the flowers are and everything else, but if a bear attacked me, I'm going to tell you that story.
Of course, and we're going to listen to that story, right? That's the one we want to hear.
Oh man, on the Kopka River, we're going down the Kopka River out of we did a big trip from Wabakimi to Lake Nipigon. North Shore Lake Nipigon is beautiful, right?
Yeah.
So we're doing the Kopka, and it's a major river, and so we couldn't find the portage. So my buddy said, "I'll go ahead and you check the left shoreline. I'll check the right." So I go there, and I had to pee. So I'm standing there peeing, and there's a bear cub. I went, "Uh-oh. Where's the mom?" And I finished peeing, and the bear cub sees me, so it runs up the tree. But this is my luck: the tree falls, hit the bear in it, and appears. I'm thinking this is not good, so I'm telling my buddy. He goes, "Well, is a bear attacking you or something?" So, well, not yet, but if you can come back here with a canoe, that would be lovely.
Oh my God! Wow.
Let's tell folks a little bit about you, Kevin. They call you the happy camper for a reason. First of all, how long you been in this industry?
Oh man, I just celebrated my first book I published called Killarney. It was 30 years ago this month. Yeah. And I was 27 years old at the time. So yeah, I wrote a nature column back when I was in my early 20s. I graduated as a forest technician. I used to work up in actually Swastika, the town of Swastika, near New Lister.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just drove through there the other day too, and the place still exists. But I worked in forestry, then I worked in outdoor ed on the weekend, and I kind of did a switch, and I worked in fish and wildlife. So I actually worked as a bird rehabilitator, like taking care of hawks and owls and stuff. So I did a whole bunch of various contract jobs, and I would write about it. And then all that became just into stories. And I'm like my dad, basically he was a storyteller, Irish, Scottish, right? So, and like all of us, exaggerate the truth a bit. Like the fish was this big. Yeah. And so 18 books later, and I don't know, my mother still says, "When are you ever going to get a job?"
How true is that comment? My parents, they're both gone now, but right up until their last days, they used to say the same thing to me. How are you making out? You need a little bit of money. Are things, okay? When are you going to get a job? Like all those same things that all of us that have made the outdoors a career, our parents can't believe it. And yet, quite frankly, I mean, there's days where I can't believe it, to be honest with you. And I'm sure, Kevin, you have the same thing. I'm sure, Pete, you do the same. Where we still, need to get pinched. It's this is real. It's happening. Yeah. So we're very fortunate. Very, very lucky people.
No kidding. My parents, they just shake their heads at me. They don't know what to think. Are you fishing and making money? What the hell's going on here? The worst part about that, though, is that people think that's all, at least in Ange and I say, and Kevin, this probably doesn't include you, but they just think that we just go fishing and make money. That's it. And it's the furthest thing from the truth. You know what I mean? We're television producers that use fishing as our subject matter.
Yeah. I think all of us that work in the outdoors know one thing, like you basically don't work 9 to 5, and that's a given. And then also there's not tons of money in it. Like if there is, then you've struck it rich, right?
Yeah.
You have to know going into it that it's not a money making thing. You also can't retire. Like I can't retire. Like I'm a writer. So yeah. And at the same time, I look at my buddies I go fishing with, and they got what's called normal jobs, and they're all happy with their normal jobs, but they just can't. They're like, you do what? Like, what do you do for a living? Like, and in one sense, they keep me grounded too, right? So
yeah. We had very quickly. It's funny you said there's not a 9 to 5 job. Just the other day, Mike and I went for a shoot the other day, and it was over a 16-hour day total. When you meet here at the office, then you grab the boat, you go, you travel, you do this. It's a one-day deal. Come back. It's over 16 hours when you go back to your bed, back to your house, and finally settle down. Those are long days, man. So
yeah.
But none of us would change it for anything in the world, right? And I know in your case, Kevin, you get to explore places where 99.9% of the human race will unfortunately never get a chance to experience. And that's what when I think of you and when I look at your books and read some of your stuff, that's all I can think of is, man, this guy is so fortunate. He goes to places where maybe no other human being will ever be.
Yeah. I always go to those spots where my one buddy is kind of odd. I don't know if you have someone that fishes with you. He'll go on a trip with me in the far north, but he'll only catch fish for substance. They eat it, right? And so I'll do catch and release at times too. Like I love eating fish in the middle of nowhere, right? Especially on a 20-day trip. But if I go across the lake, my father as a ghost will haunt me if I actually don't fish that lake, because nobody has ever put a fishing rod or a hook or whatever in that water, right? And he goes, "Oh, we don't need to fish." Yes, we do.
Right.
Part of the deal, right?
Part of the deal. What's in it, right? You don't even know what kind of fish are in there. You just troll a spinner, you can catch a walleye, a pike, a trout, or whatever. Who knows, right?
Yeah. So, Kevin, how much research goes into? I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask it anyways, because I know there's a lot of people maybe out there now that do fancy themselves as a bit of an outdoors, backwoods kind of person. And they'll plan their trip, a year ahead of time, and they'll research everything about it. By the time they go on the trip, they're intimately familiar with every blade of grass and tree that they're going to meet along the way. Are you the same way, or do you enjoy the rush of not knowing what's around the next bend?
No, I'm a big planner. In fact, I think I spend more time planning than I do the trip, and sometimes planning is a lot more fun than the trip. Right? And I like going to different places, but my favorite canoe trip or bush trip is my next one going on. I don't know what it is, but it's the next one. It's not the ones I did 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Like I always live in the future, not the past, right? But the thing is, the amount of planning, especially when you go to the far north, when you do what we call a lost route, where people haven't done for a while, it's like the fishing lure or like the fishing spot. To me, it's like a fishing spot or trout spot more so than anything. You work really hard to find that spot, and when you do, it's all worth it, right? The payback. And someone will come up to me and say, "Well, I've gone to Algonquin, I couldn't catch a trout." And I went, "Well, you're not planning very well. Like, did you actually put a line in the water?" And they actually want me to put the line in the water for them. I went, "No, the whole thing is for you to get to the ability, your skill level, to go in the woods, to be comfortable out there, to be confident." And that's actually how we catch fish. You're confident. If you're confident, you're going to catch fish, right?
Yeah, I'm getting people waving at me here.
Yeah, I
agree with you 100%, man. I think I've shared this with you a few times, Kevin. I used to, for years, I think 18 years in a row, I would go into Algonquin Park twice a year, at the beginning and at the end of the season, and go through, getting to little outback lakes that most people never even thought of going into. And I used to look forward to that trip so much. I mean, it was, I worked the whole year just to go on those trips.
Yeah.
And they consumed me. And I remember that it's fantastic. So for you to be doing that on a regular basis, I'm green with envy. I am absolutely agreeing with
Do
it.
you ever plan? Oh, go ahead. Okay.
I was going to say, how many trips a year do you do?
I average about 60 nights a year. If I don't sleep in the tent more than 60, I get a little cranky. Yeah.
I was going to ask, do you ever plan your canoe trips, a multiple day trip on a fish species in particular, or do you just go, oh yeah?
Yeah, I do. I mean, because I think it's really rare for canoeists to fish. I might be wrong, but I know a lot of paddlers that don't even think of bringing a fishing rod. And
Really?
thank God, again, my dad would kill me if I didn't do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I will, I do it in seasonal too. Like basically spring is trout, so I'll go to Ogoma and Algonquin, and I know the spots. Or I'll try somewhere different, right? Like there's one river that comes in the Tata-Chatapika River up in northeastern Ontario, and it's got beautiful brook trout. And you have to run a whitewater river first to get to it, and then you go up that creek and you're going to get them. Or the Fire River in Mississauga, or the Missinabie River. I remember actually catching brook trout in that because there's no trout on the Missinabie River.
Right.
And it's okay fishing for walleye and whatever. But I went up for the trout, and I had 3 on my stringer to have for dinner, and there's a bear walking behind me. So I give him 2. I don't give him 3. So I get to my canoe, and actually that bear was smart. He had backtracked me and actually was sitting there waiting for me on the canoe for the 3rd fish.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I had oatmeal that day.
How many? Talk to us about your scariest experience you ever had in the Canadian outback.
Scariest is all human based. It's all not wilderness based. I had some locals slash my tires on the end of going off to Oriki Lake up by what's called Ranger Lake Road. I went off road from that road, and then flew in from there, and then paddled back down the Osalbo River. And yeah, someone didn't like canoeists, I guess, and they someone didn't like any. I don't know. They slashed 3 of my 4 tires. So that was a pain in the butt. And my partner was sick, and I had to get him out. So we ended up flying up. But it was all human based. I think the one thing I'm really terrified though is storms. I got to say, of all the things in nature, you have no control. Especially now, I find there was more storms, massive storms. Those wind tunnels that come up, and there's nothing. You can't do anything about it. Where a bear, I've dealt with bears before, and I have a fish and wildlife background, and I mean, not to say that that's not going to happen, but I'm not afraid. I may be phobic now and then, but when a big storm comes in, I'm terrified.
Really?
Yeah. I had one on Wabakimi where I could see the clouds turn. In fact, we were filming a documentary, and I was out in the boat, and they were filming me, and all of a sudden I see the sky turn green, and then the wind switched. I was like, oh crap, that's not good. And up there, when a storm hits, it's brutal, right? So I got to shore, we made cover, and a bunch of those red ants started biting our feet, and I was like, well, let's just move down to the next point. So we did. The storm hit, the tunnel cloud hit that point where the ants were and decimated it. If we didn't move, we'd be dead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had a similar incident in Algonquin Park once again, where we encountered we had just at the end of one portage, we just put our canoes in the water to go across that lake onto the next portage on the other side, and as we're getting ready for our paddle across the lake, we noticed that there were 3 other canoes that had already made it to the other side. So they were just ahead of us. And I'm going to say it was about maybe 3/4 of a mile on the other side of the lake. And so we said, oh, geez, there's somebody ahead of us. Damn, I hope they're not going to Round Lake or wherever we were going. And as we're saying that, we noticed down from where they were heading to the portage point, we noticed a wind tunnel, like a little tornado, making its way through the woods. And it got louder and louder, and we could see it. And we're all saying, whoa. And this, of course, all happened in a matter of less than 10 or 15 seconds. And it cleared the woods, came out of the shoreline, and headed straight down towards the canoeist. Wow. And we're watching this unfold. Say, my God, it's gonna hit them, and it did.
Yeah,
it wiped all 3 canoes out as it went by. And fortunately for them, We were already in the water, and we paddled across, and of course, pulled them out and warmed them up and started fires. And all their stuff had gone, all their tents, their sleeping bags, everything had perished.
It flipped their canoes. It flipped
all three of them.
Yeah.
And so the difficult part, Kevin will attest to this. One of the most difficult things to do is try and save somebody when you're in a canoe.
Oh yeah.
And they're in panic mode in the water.
Yeah.
It is very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
Yeah, I could see that.
I was going across Missionary Lake in a solo. I was out for a 1 month solo trip. Well, I was really young too, and some guy, his motorboat was sinking. So someone went to save the boat, and then they asked me to go save him. So I paddled up, and he was the guy you don't want to save. He was going to pull me in, right? So I shouldn't tell this, but it's terrible. But I got the paddle, just hit him in the head. So you're not taking me. I'm middle of Missionary Lake. It's huge, right? And I'm by myself. 1 month canoe trip. Sorry, buddy. And then I gave him my life jacket. And I got him shore, so I did save him. But yeah, I had to calm him down a bit. But I shouldn't tell that story.
I got to do that to Viola on my next fishing trip. McMahon, okay, shut up.
Somebody wants to know, Kevin, what is your favorite species to fish for?
It is brook trout. The main reason is that it's a true sign of wilderness, especially the non-stocked, right? I mean, the ones that are self-sustaining. And if you go into that spot, it's going to be hard to get to, right? And that's why there's brook trout there. The environment is good. They're a very good indicator species. Yeah. And they're not easy to catch, right? So, I mean, I hate to say it, but everybody can catch a bass, right? So I love catching bass.
No.
Right?
Well,
Yeah. But to go into the far areas up in my lord, like North Shore Lake Nipigon, the tributaries that come into there, and I catch a brook trout there. Like for you to get there, that's going to take a long time to get there, right? So, yeah, and I think that just symbolizes to me wilderness.
Yeah, it does, right? You're in the outback when.
Yeah.
Expect that benchmark.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the places where you go, most of the places where I've been backpacking and stuff are the few places on Earth where speckled trout can reproduce naturally anymore. So I think it's probably symbolic of those last pristine wilderness areas. You're right.
Yeah, there is one spot where rainbow's self-sustained. I don't know if you've been there, the Algoma Kirkpatrick Lake area, right?
Yeah. Blue Fox Lodge.
Yeah. My God, the rainbow in there and the White River. I was actually just there last week driving along there, and they self-sustain. So that's really rare, but they're natural from there. So I love going there for that reason. There's a great canoe trip through there.
Oh, for sure.
Did you ever fish the brook trout in there in the small out lake? My God, Ange did a show in there. You wouldn't believe. Well, they're Nipissing brookies, and they're huge. Like you're catching 6 to 8 pound brook trout in a lake that's a city block size.
Yeah.
The whole adventure of getting into some of those little lakes, though, I think that's half the fun.
Oh yeah.
Whether you're doing it on a 4x4 or whatever method you're using, just getting to some of those outback lakes is a blast.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Hey, Kira, by the way, for those of you just joining us, Kevin Callan is our guest today. He is first of all, a prolific author. The subject matter is the outdoors, obviously, mostly camping and outback canoeing and all those adventures that we all dream of having. Well, Kevin has them every week of his life, and it's part of who he is. He's also, they call him the happy camper because he's not happy unless he's in the outdoors, including, by the way, the months of January and February. I've had the pleasure of speaking to Kevin live on the radio program when he's been out in a tent in the month of January and February. So I know he does it for real.
Yeah.
We'll get on to that in a few moments. I wanted to ask you, though, have you ever, staked out your trip and did all the research and analyzed it to death and said, yes, this is where I want to go because no man has gone there before. And then you do the trip, and somewhere along, whether it's at the beginning, middle, or end, you find out not only has this been done before, but it's almost like a major highway now. There's people all over the place.
Yeah, it's also happened to me because I wrote about it and people go there because of it. You guys probably know that too, right? Yeah, my nickname is the Wilderness Pornographer. And I was at Naganash Lake near just north of Manadawan River, south of Pickerel River. And there, if you go into Naganosh, you got Smoky Lake, Naganosh, Mud Lake, John Lake, and then you link it up to Kelsey Lake with an old portage. There's endless lakes, amazing bass fishing there. But I was there a couple weeks ago, and yeah, full of people. And every single one of them came up and thanked me to tell them about that spot. I went,
and you know what? Pete and I run through that all the time because we have this thing called hotspots where we give away GPS coordinates of where we fish. And the same thing happens, right? So we sometimes we go back to these places and there's somebody there. What are you doing? One that comes to mind is on the French River, Pete, where we marked off the largemouth. One of the few areas that have largemouth on the French. And for years we had it to ourselves, and then after a couple of years of putting the coordinates on the screen, every time we go, there's a flotilla of boats there. Right?
Where'd that guy come from? They're coming all the way from North Bay, for crying out loud.
Well, there's a whole philosophy behind that too. I mean, I have rules. It has to be a known canoe route. It can't be something made up. It has to be known on the roadmap. Like Naganosh area, that's no secret. It's a provincial park. It's not operating, but yeah. And I remember even going there once, and some older gentleman flew in, and there's a lodge there, and he was enjoying the lodge, and he saw me paddling by, and he goes, "Oh man, how long did it take you to get in here?" And I really felt bad for him because I'm not sure how much it cost him to fly in, but there was only 3 portages. It took me half a day to paddle in. Right? I said it took me days. It was a nightmare.
Scott Stewart wants to know, Kevin, do you ever run a pontoon off the side of your canoe?
No, but what I do when I'm solo, if you ever watch a solo paddler, they'll lean to the side a bit, and what's keeping you steady is actually your paddle. So you do a low brace or high brace. If you put that paddle out to the side, it is like having a pontoon to the side. That's exactly what it does. So if you're tandem and one person puts their paddle out to one side and the other puts the other side, you got like 3 canoes, and there's no way you're going to flip. You might fill up with water and sink, but you're not going to flip. Also, when you lean to the side a bit, it's because you're creating a gunnel and going quicker. So there's less surface of the canoe on the water, so you're going to zip through the water quicker. That's why you lean to the side a bit, and you look really good when you do it. So.
Oh yeah, you look like you know what you're doing for sure, don't you? Like those sailboats that are going like that on that angle like that. What the hell? How come they're not? What's the reason for that? Right?
Okay, give us the Reader's Digest version of the right way to use a paddle.
Should have a paddle here. So basically, to use a paddle, it has to be the proper shape for you. So you know how the old day you would actually put the paddle up to your nose and measure it? That's not right, because paddles are different sizes and different lengths. So if you are in whitewater and you want to push that canoe really quickly away from the rapids, you want a wide paddle. So you push a lot of surface water really quickly. If you're on a canoe trip across lakes, you do not want that paddle. And you'll see them on sale, right? Everybody will think that more surface, but no, you want a beaver tail shape or an otter tail shaped paddle. So you're pushing the water, but below the surface. So it's deeper and pushing more water. And then your wrist won't kill. So your hands on the top and then on the throat. And how you measure it to make sure it fits you is because that blade length are all different sizes of blades. You actually put it over your head, and with your hand on the top and your other hand at the throat before the blade. And as long as your arms are like up and down straight like that, then it fits you. If it's in like this, it doesn't work. If it's in out like that, it doesn't work. So.
Okay, so they have to be directly above your head.
Yeah.
That's basically, the shaft of the paddle has to fit between your fists. Yeah.
I'll grab a paddle. It's right beside me. Just
I've always been intrigued, especially by a solo canoeist, how they never really pull the paddle out of the water when they're paddling.
Unreal. And they go straight.
I know. They do that S turn or whatever.
They go straight. My problem is I go circles. I can't go because I'm doing circles. I can't get to the next spot.
Like that.
Look at that. Perfect.
And then, so that is a good blade to go on a good lake trip. If you're doing whitewater, no, because you need to push water really quickly. But yeah.
So Kevin, I want to go back a step. You said in that type of paddle, you want to get it deeper into the water. So let's just say from the top of that paddle at the surface, or more handle into the surface. You're saying even more handle, like the deeper down, the better, or is it just all the paddle blade in the water is all you need to do?
The paddle blade should be at least up. Whoa!
Sorry, buddy.
There goes the margarita.
Oh, God.
It should be up to here in water, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And when the idea of doing a proper stroke, though, too, you actually do what's called the J stroke. So a lot of people do what's called the goonie. They'll actually go with the paddle and have their thumb up like this, and they'll pry against it like that, and that will work. So you paddle like this and then push off to the side. That will work. When you put your canoe forward, it goes off this way a bit. So you do that stroke and it'll come back this way. But it's inefficient because you're braking every time you're going forward. You're going like this, brake, forward, brake. So it's called the J stroke. What you do is you do the J. You actually put your thumb down and then pry out. And that actually does not break the canoe. It's a fluid motion. And what's called the Canadian stroke, which because Canadians go on longer trips than anybody else. When I paddle in the United States, they say, hey, look, he's doing the Canadian stroke. You just run your throat along your gunnel and really smoothly paddle like that. And you just use an extended J. And that's, you'd paddle like that all day, you'd be fine.
And you're running it, you're touching the canoe with your paddle. You're actually
and a lot of old books will say not to use the gunnel. You're supposed to keep away from the gunnel. That's crap. If you're out for a 10-day trip, if you don't use the gunnel, your wrists are going to kill you. So use the gunnel. And in fact, a lot of my paddles have leather on the throat just to run across the gunnel.
Yeah.
There's something I did not know about running it across the gunnel. I used to do that all the time and piss everybody off that was in my group, right? Because you'd have this beautiful sound of nothing but wilderness, and then Viola's boat would have crunch, crunch, crunch. And he'd say, shut up back there.
What about two people paddling strokes? Does it differentiate? The back guy obviously is the controller still, I'm assuming.
Well, actually, that's a bad assumption in whitewater. So what happens when I guided, I would guide a lot of spouses, right? And they would want to kill each other halfway through the trip. What usually happens is the dominant person is in the back because they want to steer, and the person in the front does the power strokes. And that usually is the case going across a lake. But the person in the bow needs to know how to steer the canoe as well. Not the J stroke, but a cross draw. Because if you're in whitewater and you're going down the whitewater and there's a rock with the rapids, and the person in the back goes, go left, and the person in the front goes, well, I don't know how to turn. So the person in the back will compensate with them. They'll go sideways, and then they'll wrap around the rock. Happens all the time. So the person in the front, when you do whitewater, has to be a better paddler than the person in the back.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Wow. Yeah, so you pull that front end over, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're in the front of the canoe and you want to go left, you actually do what's called a draw. So you put the blade out like this and you draw the water towards you. And if you want to do a cross draw, you switch it like this. And that seems difficult to do. It takes practice, but it's a lot quicker than going, oh my goodness, I got to do this side, the rock's coming. Well, if you do that, then you won't hit the rock.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Now, what about Angelo and I have a difference in weight? Should the heavier person be in the back of the canoe versus the front? I would assume that. I'm going to assume that one again. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you need your bow down a bit. You don't want the wind to hit it. It'll blow you all over the place. But in general, if you have the bigger person in the front, your bow is down heavy and you're pushing through the water. So you have to pull it out. So if you're in the front, Pete, and Angelo's in the back, then you're going to have to put your pack or your tackle box, whatever, up there with you in the front just to level it off. You need the canoe to be straight level. And actually, ask someone else with you how my level lines. And they'll say, well, you're getting bow heavy or a bit stern heavy.
That's interesting. That's good. It's good because
I see a lot of a lot of beginning people do this. They'll go solo in a canoe and they'll actually go and sit in the back seat. Well, that is a big no-no because your whole bow is right up there. So I like a prospector canoe because they're both equal sides, right? So I'll sit in the front seat going backwards, and therefore the back, which is now the bow, is lower down. And when you see someone solo tripping like that, you know they've tripped for a while.
Okay, go through that again now. You like to sit in the front going backwards. Yeah,
because if you sit in the stern seat of solo, there's too much bow sticking up out of the water, right?
So he's not going backwards, Ange. He's not going backwards. The canoe is going physically in reverse to what it's supposed to be going, right, Kevin?
Yeah.
So you're basically taking the back of the canoe going forward. He's not going reverse. It's just the canoe is facing reverse, but it's going forward.
Show you here.
I get what you're saying.
Is there some sort of a guide or formula in terms of weight that a person should put in a canoe if they want to do some serious portaging and backpacking. Do you have a guideline, a rule of thumb, or is it pretty much left to the individual?
No, it all depends on the canoe you use. So I use a Prospector because of the payload. So it's called a Prospector because it's good for, it's not really fast, but it's good with everything. You can paddle it solo because it's asymmetrical. Both sides are the same. You go backwards. It's got a good tumble home, meaning that actually when you get in a canoe and you feel stable right off the bat, it's a cheap canoe. If you get into a canoe and you feel a little tippy, but once you start paddling, you have full control, that's second stability, and that's actually a far better canoe. And what's called payload is like if you can put 300 plus pounds in it without moving or putting the canoe down deeper, then it's a good canoe. But I also have a solo canoe that actually, yeah, you know, if you're 6'5", don't go in it, you're going to flip, right? So it all depends. I've got way too many canoes. Maybe we should have done the interview the other way. I got 12 canoes in my backyard, right? So. Well, you guys, how many fishing rods do you have?
That's true. That's
true. Just two, one each. That's all we use at a time. Kevin, what about, without slagging any brands or anything like that, what about the aluminum canoes, about the old, you know, the Sports Pal, basically, that foam bottom canoe with the little runners on the side and all that? Are they a good canoe for somebody to have? Is that what you look for? Is that not what you look for? Why would they use it? What's the deal with that?
I would look for something you can afford and then that you would use. You know how many people, just like in your fishing industry, right? How many people talk about gear, but they don't use it, right? And they know everything about gear, but they don't go fishing. So there's nothing wrong with a Grumman canoe. In fact, to me, it's a legendary canoe. It's very stable, but it's heavy as crap. But during the time, it was the big thing. When the movie Deliverance came out, Grumman canoe sales went skyrocketing because it was a new age, right? Suppose if you watch the movie, well, maybe you shouldn't, but if you watch that movie, the cedar canvas canoe the guys used and the Grumman canoe was a big switch. But now we got lightweight Kevlar as well, so that's different, but that's going to cost you. Those sports style canoes, yeah, they're fine, but it's initial stability they have. So you feel that you're really stable. They're not. If a wave comes over, you're going over.
That's why I mentioned it, because I know they were stable. My cousins used to have one. They were just, you get in it, it's like rock solid. You say, wow, this is like a boat, you know?
Yeah. There's one guy on YouTube, backcountry angler, Ontario backcountry, Jonathan. No, actually, even better story. These guys called the Northern Scavengers. Amazing anglers. They've gone off great places. And two guys that just started off fishing as buddies, and they went on the Steel River with a Coleman canoe from Canadian Tire. And the Steel River is a intense trip. Like the first portage is called Devil Portage for a reason. Like it's up a cliff, right? But young guys, they did it, caught lots of walleye. In fact, there's still the blue steel walleye in that river. The tint is different. Anyway, so ended up they went and I congratulated them. Great. I go, when's your next trip? And it's, well, we're doing Wabakimi for 3 weeks. I said, well, if you go to Wabakimi for 3 weeks in that Coleman canoe, you will die. So I said, borrow one of my canoes, please. So they did. And the last trip they went on, they paddled across Labrador. So it's a different level. I mean, they were okay at first because of the skill set they had, the ability they had, and also the money they had. Yeah. And they're doing bigger trips. You can't do it in a cheaper canoe.
Yeah.
Let's talk for a minute. First of all, I don't know whether he's still in the control room. Our latest member to the team, Mark Weir, shared a story with me last week about an experience he had canoeing with a group of fellows that he used to go out with regularly. If you're still in the control room, Mark, if you just let me know, because I can kind of let them know that you're still there. Maybe you'll share the story with us about, novice people who should not be doing this stuff, insisting on going out and running, white water and knowing full well that somewhere along that trip, there's a whitewater trip, part of it, right? And still insisting on going out and doing it, and finding out that they're literally way over their head. Does that happen quite a bit in your experience? Do you talk to folks who've come across that turn in the river that they were not expecting, or maybe they were expecting but didn't realize they didn't have the parts to navigate it?
Yeah, I'm finding that a lot more now for two reasons. One is because of COVID. Everybody wants to get outdoors, and we have so many people out there, which I think is fantastic. That's why I promote it, get people out there to reconnect with the wilderness and all that other thing. But they're also jumping ahead, and they think if they watch a YouTube channel, then they know how to paddle. it takes time and skill, and I think a lot of people don't have the patience for that. They just want to learn like that, you know. And I want to be a plumber just like that, so I'm gonna watch a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So, or I want to catch brook trout up in North Shore and Lake Nipissing. I've never gone paddling before. Like what? It's like my mother. She's Scottish, 86-year-old Scottish mother. Just didn't be stupid. Just didn't be stupid. That's what she tells me all the time. And she's right. Just don't be stupid about it. Be still about it. But I also don't knock those people because I was that person. I mean, you know, when I first went out paddling, here's the thing. I'll do a huge error once, but if I do it twice, I am stupid, right? So if I do it once, I learn from it. And yeah, and the whole skill set. So I get nervous with people taking too much on for their skill set, but also I'm thinking, well, they got to learn somehow. So.
Have you encountered water that you weren't maybe aware of prior to your trip that you said, no, I will walk around this, no matter how difficult it is for me to carry my stuff, I'm walking around it?
Yeah, many times. In fact, I've been criticized a lot because I will walk around it. And the reason why is I was up in northern Quebec on a river. I forget the name of the river. But it was a class 2 rapid before a major waterfall. And I went to portage, and this guy, very arrogant guy, you know, and that basically who dies out there. He said, well, Kevin, you can run a class 2. I went, yes, I can. But if I mess up, I'm dead. So what's wrong with just portaging around it? And he goes, well, I'm going to run it. I went, why? Like, then I have to carry your body out. So like, what is it? And the one thing about wilderness, it humbles you. And if it doesn't humble you, it will kill you.
Yeah. That brings me to a question now, Kevin. How do you give us the classifications of rapids? Go through the 1 to whatever it goes to.
Yeah, so there's a swift, which is basically you'll see the V line and everything's fine and everything happens. It's like a little bit of water. Then there's a class 1, which is a little technical. You have to know how to maneuver around a rock or go to actually read a rapid and know which area is deeper, where the rocks and rollers are. There's a class 2, which is like you kind of have to know what you're doing, and you have to know how to communicate with your partner if you're with someone. And that's the thing. If you're doing rapids and you want to actually stay married, maybe you should go with someone else. Because the one thing about canoeing is you have to communicate when you're going down rapids. If you don't know how to communicate, it's all done. Might as well go solo. I always say that kayakers or canoeists that never got along with their canoe partner. So, but when you get to class 3, you really do need some skill set. There's probably a drop or what's called a boiler. So it's a rapids that boil like this, and if you get stuck in it, you're not getting out. Yeah. And then you get to the 4s and 5s, which are mini waterfalls, and you have to be really technical and have a good boat for that. So.
I did a before we get to Dana's question, I did that Ottawa River whitewater rafting years ago when we were young, and I got into one of those, like the guy told us, you get out of the raft, you're going to go down on your life jacket through the rapids. It's going to suck you under. It's going to hold you under, and it's going to finally spit you out. You want to do it or not? Of course, the idiot I am. I said, yeah, I got to try it. I guess there was other people doing it. And I shit everybody not. You are down. It pulls you with a life jacket on straight to the bottom. It holds you down there, and the panic button's starting to hit, and then all of a sudden, pop, and it just pops up like a bobber. It's unbelievable. So those, whatever you call it, a boiler or whatever you call it, man, I'll tell you, that's scary stuff. And without a light,
it's terrible. I did the same thing for a film a few years ago for tourism, and I hated it. I hated it because what happened was we did a pre-roll before we did the whole film, and we needed some clients in the boat. There was no clients. It was early spring. We made it look like summer. So, you filmed before, it's like that. So the clients were all the major whitewater paddlers with me, right? So we got in the raft, and I did not want to do this. I mean, I love going down whitewater and in the middle of nowhere, but to do something insane like that, it's like my whole conscience is saying, didn't be stupid, right? So what did I do? I'm a bit of a joker, and I know everybody's looking at me. So who's the film guy? We're all professional paddlers. Who's this happy camper guy? And the top guide from New Zealand, he goes, "So who are you?" I went, "Oh, I'm the happy camper. And are you from New Zealand? So do they still eat their own young there?" So the guy looks at me, he goes, "You're going in the water today, buddy." I went, "I am going in the water. I knew it. I might as well do something for it." And then I went into what they call the nose enema. That's exactly what happened to you, the nose enema. So basically, I flipped in, and what you're supposed to do is not fight it. So right. Yeah, and then it'll pop you out, but you're going to want to fight it. So
That's the natural thing. But
How do you know? How can anybody guarantee that it's going to pop you out? Like, how do they know?
Well, let's just say you have to have your life jacket on to pop you out. If you didn't have a life jacket on, it'd suck you down and keep you down there, right? Somehow it's pushing you. I think it's pushing you away from the rapids from the circle or whatever at the end of it somehow. And they just, through time with the company that I went with, they've all done it. Thousands of people have done it, never ever get stuck in it.
Can we just take this 1 second to do, one of those messages for the audience regarding water safety? For a number of reasons. Number one, now we're talking about life jackets, which is very near and dear to my heart. And we have, a guy on the line or with us today that probably, people look to and say, well, I'll bet you Kevin wouldn't even ever dream of having a life jacket when he's out in the wilderness doing this stuff, because he's the consummate professional. He knows he's like a mermaid. He doesn't need safety.
A mermaid.
So talk to us.
No, I'm always wearing a life jacket. Yeah.
Always.
So I've got things happening here. My neighbors going, my dogs, oh my Lord.
Always. Kevin said always. This is a guy who makes a living doing this stuff. He says always, meaning there are no exceptions in Kevin's life in terms of water safety.
No, and yeah, for two reasons. One is, didn't be stupid, so I always wear a PFD. I wear a comfortable one, so I don't really know. It's probably your second skin. I do a lot of solo, so it'd be kind of really crazy to go out there without one. But also it's because I'm in the public and I do videos and stuff. And I told a couple of new YouTubers the other day that didn't wear the life jacket. One guy was on Lake Superior, and I said, hey, man, you got to wear your life jacket. He goes, I didn't need it. I went, let's say you didn't. I disagree with him. But I said, thousands of people are watching you on YouTube, a lot of young people, and they're going to actually not wear it because of you. So you have to think about that. And yeah, it's almost like, I hate to say it, but I guess I've become that old wise guy. But it's like,
I'm embarrassed to say that in my industry, a lot of my peers still have not caught on to the fact that they are looked upon as the professionals, and everything they do, people try to emulate, especially young people. So if they see them running their boat across the lake without a life jacket on, or standing on the bow of a boat with water, rough water all over the place, fishing without a life jacket on, that they're setting a bad example for people, and they don't get it. They just don't get it. Pete and I have.
You get yourself in a certain situation. There's one particular trip. My buddy and I were fishing, actually Queen Elizabeth Wildlands, with bass fishing. We're in there overnight. And these guys come across a canoe, and they're overloaded. They had no PFD. They didn't even own PFDs. And it was October. It was really cold. Oh. And the two things happened is I said, hey, guys, how you doing? And they didn't say hello back, which is happening kind of weird now. A lot of people aren't saying hello to you out there. It's almost like this rude thing. But I always think you should say hello to someone in case you need them to help you. But later that day, they're out fishing in their canoe, and they flipped over in a snowstorm. And my buddy and I went and saved him. My buddy, when we're just about to save him, he goes, you want to say hello to us now?
Oh, wow. That is so true. I can't understand anybody being in that environment and being rude. Like, how can you even do that? Because you feel so good about being there. You want to go out and like say hello to a plant or something. You feel so good. Why would you not say hello to another human being that you?
I don't know. My dad always taught me to always say hello to someone in the woods, because you never know, right? I think it's self-interest. Self-interest is the ruin of or demise of the human species, right? It's all to do with you and nobody else, and that will kill you out there for sure. So,
yeah,
very dangerous.
I got my battery's going low. I got to go in. I'm going in and plugging it in. This must be live or something. My dog's joining me too.
Plug in the generator, buddy. You got to talk a little louder. That's all.
There's the word.
Now. Well, the dogs are upset. I gotta like, this technology is falling apart. Right.
How many dogs you got as you're walking? How many dogs are there? Oh, he's going to be.
I got Angel is my dog. She's a mix between a border collie and a golden retriever. So,
cool.
herd you like a sheep, and she'll actually, when she gets into something she shouldn't, she's the golden retriever. So.
Yeah.
So Dana wants to know, what's the one luxury that you always take in the outback? What's that one item? We all have it, right? We all have that one item that we always take.
Yeah, it's a mix between a camp chair and scotch.
Socks.
Wait a second. Scotch is a necessity, isn't it? Excuse me?
Oh, yeah, not socks. No, I'd rather have scotch than socks, but yeah.
We all have those items, right? That you love roughing it, but God, give me my pillow, or give me that blanket, or give me whatever it happens to be. That one item, we all have it, right?
We did a camping trip with the kids years ago. Ange and I did a shoot, and we were in getting all our gear, and Ange bought a cappuccino machine for out the campfire.
Hey, you gotta have it.
Oh, man, that was great.
Hey, Calvin, how you doing, buddy? Calvin is a regular on the show here. He wants to know: do you primarily fly fish from a canoe, or do you use other presentations?
Depending on the trip, if it's a brook trout fishing, especially the Nipissing, I'll fly fish. Usually, when I fly fish, I'll go to the shore and fish a hole. And that's the thing too about the rules of fishing or fly fishing, is that everybody must get all their camp gear across that portage before you fish. Because if you run across and fish the hole before anybody, someone's going to murder you. So, yeah, I really like fly fishing for the same thing that everybody else likes. It's a bit more of a challenge, and yeah, it's really good to catch a brookie on that.
So, in a lot of places that you go, especially provincial or even national parks, there are designated camping areas where you can stop, and they're all marked, and you have to reserve them in some cases. How much time do you spend in areas that are not designated? Do you have a lot of time where you just pull over and say, hey, I got to make camp?
Yeah. Well, if I'm in a provincial park, I do plan on where I'm going to stay. During the busy season, like now, I stay away from the busy parks because it gets way too crowded and people fight for campsites. So I go to Crown Land or non-operating parks, meaning the Kopka or Naganosh, or I go to Quetico, where really it's a rural park. So you just camp anywhere you want. You can camp anywhere you want. So yeah, but I have, I got to the point where, when I did the Minas Lake, everybody's like, how did you reserve all the sites? And I did every night. I knew where I was going to camp for that whole entire 400 kilometer trip. But there was one night on Cedar Lake, all the campsites were full, but we had a site booked, right? So I'm thinking, that's not right. So I contacted the warden and I said, what do we do? And he goes, well, you have to pal around and find out who's illegally camping. I go, I'm not doing that. The Cedar Lake is huge. So we camped, didn't have a fire, low impact. Nobody even knew we were there, snuck away. And yeah, in theory, I could get a big fine for that. But
yeah, I wonder how often that happens. People have reserved a site in the outback, and they get there and there's somebody on it. I wonder how many confrontations there are.
Yeah, I'll bet you that's common. I'll bet you. When you think about these people, they don't care. They just they need a place to stay. This is perfect for us,
Well, you have to ask my partner Christine what happened last week. Someone was on our site and wasn't leaving, and you want to see someone go crazy about that, like holy jumping, and they're like, well, no, like leave. This is our site. We booked it. Right.
But how do you know? How do they know? How do you, that's the problem. You're out in the middle of nowhere and you go up to a camper and say, hey, get out of here. That's my site.
Yeah. Well, it all depends what area you go to. Some parks, you get a numbered site, right? Whereas actually that happens on the Nipissing now too in Algonquin. In Algonquin, you book per lake. So, there's a site there for you wherever it is. But on the middle Nipissing, they changed that a couple years ago, where you have a specific site to get to, and that happened a couple years ago. I messed up. What happened was we were going down the Nipissing, and we actually rescued these guys. They're having problems, so I said, "Tell you what, and one guy was hypothermic. I go, you go down to the site we're supposed to have, and we'll just stay at this bush site." And it was a campsite on the Nipissing. We didn't have it booked. They went to use the other. And it was 8 o'clock at night. So we go, nobody's going to take the site. Well, 5 minutes later, the people that had that booked came up and said, get off our site. And I said, well, I will, but come on, like there's a story behind why we're here. they didn't want anything of it, right? So it's a yin and yang with that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what'd you do?
Well, we laughed and I bushwhacked it, but my buddies would laugh at it. I kind of had an Irish temper in me. I just told the guys what I thought of them before we left.
not so happy camper.
That wasn't it. In fact, it was really funny. Yeah, I had that. Well, you're the happy camper, and I went, not today. Nope.
Yeah, exactly.
So
what is that? Sorry, Ange, you keep saying the Nipissing. What is that? Is that a river or?
Yeah, one of the best fishing rivers in Algonquin. The Upper Nipissing too. So it basically goes from the west side to the east. It starts off. Well, there's a bunch of ways you can get into it. From Bob Lake or Tim Lake is the best, and then you finish it off at Cedar. The upper is better. The lower widens out, and you really have to know where the trout holes are for that. But the upper, it's that tea-colored water with big, huge white pine with reindeer moss hanging off it, and just put a fly. I always use a black net fly with an orange belly. Put that in the pool around mid-May, maybe end of May, and they'll slop it up. And we're talking like you'll catch endless trout.
Really? Okay. Cool.
I've had the pleasure of being on it a couple of times. It's a fantastic piece of water. That whole river system is.
Well, you can imagine you guys growing up doing the trout streams as a boy, right? I lived on the Niagara Escarpment, so I'll go imagine that, but 100-fold.
Yeah,
exactly. Cool.
And I want to talk to you. Maybe let's touch politics for just a moment. Over the last couple of years, there's been increasingly more pressure for folks to have access to some of these wilderness areas, and access in terms of being able to drive to them, especially in Northern Ontario, where you've got the timber industry, insatiable appetite to continue harvesting wood that, farther and farther back into these wilderness areas. And of course, it's a two-edged sword too. Not only do we have to be concerned about the harvest itself, but the biggest problem is what they leave behind in terms of access that is now open to the public, right? So there's been an ongoing debate for the last couple of years between the provincial government and some of the groups, the lobby groups that are advocating for more. We want more access, more access. Where do you stand on that? If I could just throw that little political thing at you, where do you stand in terms of more access for all of us?
Well, you're talking to a trout fisherman, right? So more access point, it's easier to get to, less trout. Good luck. The harder to get to. The one thing about portaging, I don't like portaging. I hate it. It hurts. But if you do a lot of it, and you're either going to catch lots of fish, or when you meet someone, they're going to be just like you, right? The same ethics, because they work to get there. I get the whole idea of people wanting to get into an area easier. I get it. We as humans create technology to do that. It's nothing really to do with the vessel too. I'm a canoeist, I backpack, whatever, but I have no problems with motorboats, I have no problems with ATVs. In fact, last year, some guy, I was on a remote lake, and an ATVer came up to me and said, "Oh, by the way, there's a loon there with young, so don't go near it." I went, "Oh, great." I knew that, but I said, "Thanks for telling me." And then I went over, and there was a kayaker that come in, and he was doing the photos right up close to it. And I went up and, "Hey, don't go near it." And he goes, "Oh, F off," And I was like, so it's not the vessel, it's the person, right?
Yeah.
But I do believe that we need wilderness still. I mean, the true wilderness park is a place we don't know about. It's a place that actually we can't get to. I mean, that is what true wilderness is, right?
Yeah. Good point. Excellent point, for sure. You said the vehicle in a different term. I want to talk to you about a vehicle that we, towards the latter part of our 18 years of going into parks and portaging and backpacking, we started using wheels. And there was, even back then, I imagine even more so now, there was a sector of the backwoods canoeists who were dead set against people using wheels to get in. How do you feel about that? And tell folks what I mean by wheels.
Yeah, it's a cart. You put the canoe in a cart. Like, yeah, why not? Like Algonquin Park has cart trails that you can use, and they're there for that. Sometimes I find they're more difficult than just portaging. The Dixon Bonfield portage, it's 5 kilometers long, right? And I've done it way too many times. I don't want to do it again. But there's a cart trail that actually goes to Dixon Lake as well. and you can use that. I've done both, and it's that one in particular is quicker just to portage. But if you aren't,
it depends on what you're bringing in. Let's be perfectly honest.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I've done that one a few times.
That's true. That's true. And also, there's people that actually aren't physically able to do that. I mean, and so I'm not going to tell them they can't use wheels, especially it's legal. You're allowed to. Right. So I have no problem with that. I do know, though, if you go past Dixon and go down to Lower Crow, there's no easy way to get into Lower Crow. Never has been, never will. No. But it's the best place to fish in all of Algonquin Park.
Woo. Yeah. Here. Dixon's no slouch. I love Dixon. I'll tell you a quick story about Dixon. So we started using wheels, like I say, I think the last 3 years or so that we were going into those areas, and we would use wheels to make that long trek in on the trail, but then we would lock the wheels up there on that side, and we would leave them there rather than float them across on the. Anyways, long story short, one of those trips coming back, somebody had cut the lock and taken the wheels, and so we were on the trail. Yeah, we were on the wrong. We carried our stuff through that whole long trail, and it was a nightmare. But yeah, people actually cut, and I'm thinking, who would bring cutters? Who would have the like you got to think this, because otherwise you have no business bringing cutters with you, and it required cutters because it was a big lock and a big chain, and it would require cutters. So somebody actually portaged cutters in with the intention of doing that.
It sounds like basically someone had their own self-interest, so they didn't like you doing that, so therefore they're right, you're wrong. In the woods, that doesn't work for me. We're all there for the same reason. Yes, there's people who abuse it and they leave garbage and everything else, but those are evil people. But the rest of us, again, no matter how you get out there, as long as you keep it wild and everything's fine.
How do you counteract that? You're in the middle of nowhere. You don't know who these people are. You don't even know whether they have weapons with them.
Right.
How do you go up to them if they're abusing this privilege that we have, not a right, this privilege that we have to use this land? How do you go up to them and say, hey, you can't do that. You can't leave garbage behind. What kind of a moron are you? Like, how do you do that and still be able to keep peace and your life? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a tough one because supposedly the answer is education. You basically go up and communicate with them calmly, because if you create conflict, you're done for, right? It's the human nature. If you create conflict, there's going to be a fight. But if you calmly sort of say, hey, or you just sort of indirectly do opposite to them. So I was on the Chapleau-Nimigasena route once, and there was people ahead of us, and they were leaving everything behind and poop right on the site, right beside the campfire, like poop right there, right? Oh. And so I finally met them. And, they were bad people. They just never been in the bush before. And I guess they think that's where you poop, right? So instead of me going nuts on them, I just said, hey, I can't believe someone just pooped on that site. Can you believe that? Who would do that? And of course, they're like, well, that was us. But, but I'm not yelling at them about it. It's all to do with education. Because there's very small amount of people that do it as an evil thing to do. It's just to do with they just don't know what else. I mean, I see people in Algonquin carrying water with them, jugs of water, and then realizing that they don't need that because there's water all around them. They just leave the jugs on the portage. It's like,
right.
Yeah. Or you just get a park warden and find them all. Put them in prison.
That's the be all end all right there, boys.
I take a lot of students at risk out as a side job, and they're different people. In fact, they're better off in the bush than a whole pile of them, right? But I have to teach them what's right and wrong, and they'll watch me what I do, and then they'll learn from what I do. And I don't lecture them. You never lecture people like that, right? I mean, they're going to lecture too much at home, right? Yeah. So you just practice, and they watch what you do, and then they teach. It's almost like quit speaking out of your father's mouth, right?
Right. So, yeah, good point.
Stephen Smith, do you have a good all-round canoe or a few different ones?
Well, the Prospector is my favorite, and Novacraft in London is my favorite because they make the best Prospector. So when you talk Prospector, every canoe company will buy this design, and they'll change that design a bit. So it's not the true Prospector that someone originally made, right? So Luxuries River, they make a good prospector, but I like Nova Cross better. Like Swift, I like their Keewatin boat, but I don't like their prospector. So yeah, then there's a Bob Special that actually goes a little bit quicker, and then there's a whole bunch of different designs. But
what's a prospector? What is the design of the prospector? What is that?
Well, if you want a canoe to go fast, you want the bow to be more pointy and the stern not to be. Right, so there's more keel in the water. So in the old days, remember there used to be like 3 keels under the boat, right?
Right.
And to keep it steady. Well, the way the canoes are made now, they're more streamlined, so it is the keel. The whole entire canoe is the keel. So you don't need a keel under the boat anymore. Right. With that though, a prospector is the same shape on the front and the back. So therefore, it might not go as fast, but you can use it for solo, tandem. So it's like golfing. If you only wanted one club, it would be the prospector.
Right.
When I was last involved in the whole outback canoeing thing, Kevlar was just, it was the material of choice. If you didn't have a Kevlar canoe, and I think there was a company back then, and I stand to be corrected. Was there a Scott canoe company?
Yeah, and they're back now.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, they were made in New Liskeard. I think they're made in Quebec now. Yeah. Yeah.
So they put out this like wild Kevlar canoe, and I think it weighed like, I don't know, 21 pounds, a prospector, 21 pounds. Like, it was unheard of. In fact, you could see through it.
Yeah.
The Kevlar was so thin that you put your hand on the outside of the hull, you could see your hand inside.
I got the one similar to that in the backyard that I did the Meanest Link with. It weighed 32 pounds, right? And some traditionalists said, well, you're supposed to do the Meanest Link around Algonquin in one of those old cedar canvas canoes that weighed like 100 pounds. I went, why? I'm smart. Like,
wants to know if you ever sank a canoe. I'm sure you have.
I've never done a really big dump in the water. I've never. I'm too paranoid and cautious. Whatever. And I never sunk a canoe. If the canoe sinks to the bottom, then you better buy another brand. But what I have done is I flipped people. I've been in the canoe where people were being just cocky about their attitude, and I kept saying, if we ever flip, so I'll flip them just to know what it's like. And it's almost like, oh yeah, so yeah, it's really cold. We're on Lake Superior. You want to know what it's real like? Yeah.
You remember? Didn't you and I do a kayaking thing, Pete, on Superior? Yep. The water was freezing, and it was midsummer. And I swear, if you got in that water, it'd be hypothermia in 15 seconds.
Yeah, you got less than 15 minutes. Yeah, I know quite a few people that in the canoe world have died on Superior. Yeah.
What's your opinion on kayaks?
I think they're great. I mean, I always get caught in the media making fun of them. I'm just joking when I do that. I have no problem with people kayaking. I just prefer the canoe because you can portage it into the wilderness. Kayaks were never made for that. The First Nations that created the kayak, it was for big water. And it makes sense. If you're on Georgian Bay, Lake Nipigon, you're better off in a kayak than you would be in a canoe, unless it has a deck on it. I just like getting into the woods, and you really can't portage a kayak all that well. You can try. But mind you, though, just lately, that Meanest Link I did, someone just did it in SUPs, like stand-up boards. Like, why? I have no idea why. They did it because nobody else did it. So
true enough. That would be different. Were they wearing PFDs?
Actually, you know what? Looking at the photos, they did. Yeah,
that's rare, right? I mean, you see people on stand-up paddle boards. Rarely are they wearing their life jacket.
I don't get that. Why is that?
I don't know. I've talked to them. I know people, and they'll just say, "Well, I'm just going around the bay." And I said, "What if you fall and hit your head on the board on something else, and whatever happens, you're out there, and the board takes off on you. What are you going to do then?" Oh, nobody. It's typical. It's very, very typical.
George Cassidy wants to know: have you ever canoed the Thames River?
Oh yeah, I did that trip a couple years ago from the beginning to the end. 8 days. I should have done it in 10. It was like 400 kilometers. And why I did it was I grew up in Milton, so I paddled all those rivers, and I wanted to do the Huck Finn thing. I wanted to go from the tributary of the Thames, I forget what town, the very top town, all the way to Lake St. Clair. And I did one portage through London. But you got to watch that video series because I did it as a joke. some young guys did the Thames, and they battled the Thames River. It's like, battle the Thames River. It's a freaking ditch, for heaven's sake. So I went to a meeting about with tourism, and they said, well, they didn't know I was sort of there, and they said, well, can this old guy do it? I went, yeah, I'm fine. So I went down the Thames, amazing fishing. Gar pike were all over the place, just below the London there. Good walleye at the bottom too. But it was a really good trip because I met a lot of really great people. It wasn't a wilderness trip. Actually, a lot of the time you didn't see anything except just the river. It was beautiful. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. The campsites were, you can actually sort of ninja camp. You can hide and camp somewhere, but I was filming it, so I didn't want to do that. So I had it all set up where I was going to camp each night. But I made fun of it. Like I slept in the backyard of a friend's. I slept in a really fancy hotel that I portaged to in the town of London. I actually, it was hilarious. I camped in a farmer's field. So yeah.
That's great.
What's the longest trip you've been on? And before you answer that, I believe I had you on the radio show when you were in the middle of it, if I'm not mistaken. But what's the longest organized trip that you have been on?
Yeah, that was a long one, but that wasn't my longest. My longest solo trip is 28 days. My longest trip is 5 weeks. So
holy crap.
Yeah. But you know what? You don't know what it is after day 10. You don't count the days.
Yeah.
Like after day 10, you don't. In fact, I was just out and I kept on telling the camera it was day 8, but it was day 9. So I just
was there a designation of time on that trip? Did you have an end date, or did you just say that's over? No. We also never end a trip. Well, I shouldn't say that, but our rule is we never end a trip early because it took so long to plan it. So if you have someone on your trip, you get really particular. Like you guys, like you get really particular who's going to be in your boat, right? Because you're going to spend a lot of time together, right? So we have certain rules, and one is you have to have a sense of humor, and it's your choice to be out there, so no complaining, right? And also is that the trip end date is the trip end date, right? Because you'll have a lot of people halfway through, they'll say, if we really push it, we can get home early. I go, why do you want to go home early? What's waiting for you at home, right? And so, and the longer you're out there, the more connected you are. 3 days, you'll be terrified of bears. You'll be very phobic. Day 7, you don't think of those things.
You must enjoy that transformation that happens usually about day 3, day 4, when you have a novice that you took out with you, and you must enjoy that moment, because we most of us have experienced it. That moment when you know that person broke through that threshold.
Yeah.
And we now are truly embracing the moment, because up until then, they're not embracing it at all.
No, you got to watch a video series I did on Casey Happy Camper. I took college students out on trip, and it's for 10 days. And I insisted that this trip was 10 days. They used to do 3-day trips. I said, for this real program to work, it has to be 10 days. And a lot of the young ones will say, well, yeah, Kevin, you happy camper. Yeah, you're known for this. No, we can outdo you. Oh, you'll absolutely outdo me on the trail. I'm old and out of shape. But you'll actually start crying by day 4 because you want to go home.
Yeah.
I'm not wanting to go home. So it's like the most comfortable feeling to be out there, and it's snowing, the weather is bad, but I know how to put a tarp up. I know how to get comfortable. I mean, the only bad thing about going on a 10-day trip with students is I can't bring my whiskey. So
True enough. Good point. The Canoe Hound Adventures, I'm sure you know them, Kevin. They just said it is now regulation that you are required to have a PFD on your SUPs. So now that it's the law is stated, which is perfect. I was always wondering why they wouldn't have that. There's so many people doing it now. It makes sense either on every other water vehicle. So let's do it on there too. Good.
Yeah, and Dennis would know. Yeah, Dennis, he has a good channel. He does a whole series of chats about canoeing and stuff. He can't fish though. What? You cannot fish.
Adrian says, is there a heavyweight ratio for choosing canoe? Light, heavyweight ratio, light, heavy, whatever, between choosing the right canoe for a person? Is there, for example, a canoe for me versus a canoe for Pete if we're going to solo? Is there a weight ratio thing that you go by?
Oh, weight ratio, I mean, for the canoe itself, how heavy the canoe is, or for?
I'm assuming
that's what he's saying. I think that's
I'm assuming the weight ratio between a canoe and yourself.
Yeah, it would be just it would be the design. Like if you were a heavy stock person, like I had a guy email me the other day. He goes, look, I'm 260 pounds. I'm 6'5", whatever. And I want to go into this one canoe I have called I think it's called the Heron. And it's a 12-foot little tiny thing. I go, no, you can't. And he goes, I really want that boat. And I go, no, you need a prospector. The payload that's what you need. So for that, and also for the material, all depends what you can afford. Like if you can afford Kevlar or Spectra or whatever, all that lightweight stuff, because you're talking over 3,000 or more, then that's fantastic. If you're doing whitewater, that's different. You're not going to do a whitewater trip with the Kevlar. You need, it used to be what's called ABS, which was kind of a plastic, and they were heavier. But if you hit rocks, you can bend the canoe back, right? Now, I forget the material.
Royal. How about that Royal?
That's it. That's ABS, Royal X. You can't get that anymore. They don't make it anymore. So all the canoe manufacturers 2 years ago went nuts. They were in a huge panic because they're like, well, we need the material. So they created a new material. Novacraft created this tough stuff, and it's got basalt. Basalt is rock and something else mixed in with it. I'm not sure, but they threw it over an apartment building, and it didn't break. So
whoa, wow.
Yeah. But it is heavier than Kevlar. So if you're,
is aluminum out of the question nowadays?
If that's what you get, right? I mean, but aluminum canoe, it's heavy, it's cold on the seat, it's hot on the seat.
Noisy, lots of noise.
Yeah, and if you're banging your paddle, the moose will hear you. But if that's what you got, that's what you got. So
I you mentioned at the top of the program, there was nothing like a Grumman canoe in terms of making you feel comfortable, safe, secure. You could conquer the world out of a 17-foot Grumman. Nothing's
going to go wrong with that boat.
Yeah,
right? So,
yeah. But interesting. Do you think flatback canoes, which you mentioned, Sports Pals, Pete, they kind of originated that whole concept. Flatback canoes with motors are. What's your opinion of them?
Well, if you got a square stern canoe, a proper square stern canoe with a small motor on it, that's fantastic. Like Obiango, that's the thing to use, right?
I think what he's asking, he's saying, does it go against the whole culture?
That doesn't bother me. No, I'm not a purist at all. I shouldn't say that. If you work really hard and portage your canoe and then you find someone else there with a motorboat, you're allowed to be a little pissed. But my dad brought me up in a motorboat, campground, some fishing from a boat, whatever. And we used to sit square stern canoe in Obiango lots, right? And I had no problem with that. A beautiful square stern canoe with a motor. It's nice.
You have to carry it in. I mean, they would have the pain of carrying more material than either electric motor and battery or a gas motor, right? So it'd be heavier for them. So they're putting the time in if they're going to bring it in. So.
Yeah, there's a local lake I know here near Bancroft. I go in for speckles a lot. And it's really hard to get in with your ATV because it's really steep, right? And so I've been there many times where it's a 1,000-meter portage. And for the time for them to load up, to put everything on that vehicle, chain it down, like winch it down to get to the lake, I'm thinking with their boat. And I portage that in less than 20 minutes. So, but at the same time, they're more comfortable that day than I am, right? Yeah. So, I got no problem them doing it, but yeah.
James Mills says flatbacks are great for up to 2.5 horsepower. Merckx, and he says that because he's probably in our contest. We're giving away a 2.5 every month until December. So I'm sure he is throwing that out there. For
Kevin, if you went in there, Kevin, in that contest, then all you have to do is buy a square back. Then it'd add for your whole fleet.
I would. And I've got my old dad's 2.5 Merc that he bought probably a Canadian Tire back in the early 70s.
So Will Wegman took the question. My next question to you. How big of a role does electronics? Will's wanting to know about portable fish finders. I'm more interested in electronics in general, especially GPS and maybe the spot. How big of a role do today's electronics play in your day-to-day activities?
Yeah, for me, like some people, traditionalists, again, I shouldn't call them traditionalists, but that's the term I use. They'll say, "Don't bring a spot." We never needed one of those back in the day. I wish I had one of those back in the day. I mean, I remember doing a 1-month canoe trip up in by James Bay with nothing, no sat phone, no nothing, and I mean, nothing happened. But so I have no problem with those. what I do have a problem is people over abusing them. I mean, I think I told you the story, Angela, before, is that one case study in Quetico where the guy pushed the spot button because his dog had diarrhea.
Right.
So a helicopter came in to get them. And
True.
Oh yeah, true. And the park warden goes, "Sorry, we're finding it." And it was, I think,
wasn't the cost, if I remember correctly, there was like the cost associated with that stupid, individual pushing that button cost us thousands of dollars.
Yeah, 37,000 that they started. And it said, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And there was actually someone in trouble somewhere else in the park at the time, but they went for the other one first. And that's why they got really pissed at it. So that's a problem with technology too. So I have no problem with that as long as you use it for that purpose. And again, I'm not a purist. I think it's really smart to have technology that will save you.
Yeah, I would say that. Answer. Let me just go with Will's question. I would think that on a day trip, a portable fish finder would be fine. But the whole thing about a portable fish finder is you need battery power. And after a day's fishing, it usually lasts about a day. If you want to carry these batteries, they're making them lithium now, which are lighter, but you'd still need a whole whack of batteries to go for a 7-day trip. There's no charging devices, right? Solar batteries?
Yeah, that's how I charge my batteries.
Solar batteries, solar charging.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you can do it then, yeah.
We used to sell panels, even back in the 80s and 90s, when this technology was just coming out. We used to sell panels that would fit in a canoe for that very purpose of charging portable batteries for.
Oh, cool. Yeah, you could do it then. Yeah.
So even my cameras I use too, right? Like if I'm going for 1 month, I can't carry enough batteries, so I bring solar for that. And if they're bringing a fish finder, as long as they carry it in and out, there's no issue with that, right? So,
but Kevin, I have to tell you, And I don't do this anymore, so it's easy for me to sit here and make this comment. But I hearken back to my days when I did it regularly. If we had GPS and used GPS, I think it would have taken away from the whole experience. I mean, half of the fun, as I recall, was being in a constant state of where the hell am I? You know what I mean? I'm not suggesting that we go out and walk aimlessly around the planet and get lost and endanger our lives, but half of that adventure outback experience is that you really don't know where you are. You hope you do.
Yeah.
So you kind of take that away when you use stuff like tracking and GPS coordinates and all that stuff. Do you not?
It is, because you're flying without a safety net, right? And the thing that I've noticed is that, especially when I take the youth out, is that they lack skill, and because they have the technology, right? So, when for map and compass, or just a map. I don't know anybody now that actually can look at a map and look at the islands on a lake and associate with those two, because they don't do that. They use GPS. Right. So it's a really important skill to actually look at the landscape and know where you are from where the topo map you're looking at. Yeah. And I also.
That was half the fun, getting those maps out, every couple of hours, going to shore and pulling the map out, making sure that you can kind of triangulate and figure out and look at the compass. Like, that was all part of the adventure. If I've got a GPS, like the equipment that Pete and I use on FNC1, you put it on autopilot, even if you're in a canoe, that equipment is so sophisticated, there is no way in hell you're ever going to feel, whoa, where am I now? Because at any given second exactly where you are. And I'm just saying that may take away from the experience nowadays. Not suggesting that people don't use it, but I don't know.
Well, there's a rule that I have. So I bring a sat phone on longer trips, remote trips. And so I tell one other person where that is in my kit. So if I die, they can find it. But I don't tell everybody else, because I don't know how many people want to use it after day 2 to phone their family, right? Or find out what the score is, the hockey game. And that sort of thing. And I said, guys, that's not what you use the satellite phone for. I mean, we need the battery. It's only for emergencies. So basically, I just don't tell them I have it, just one other person. So that takes away. So the people who are with me, they still have that fear that they're remote, right?
Right. I you know what, though? I got to say, guys, I think that the GPS, just in the safety aspect, a handheld GPS is a lifesaver. If nothing else, it's a good thing to have and a good thing to get used to. And let's be honest, Kevin said the kids aren't going to probably be reading maps nowadays from here on to the end of their day. So a GPS would be, to me, it would be a great idea in some way, shape, or form, a small GPS to, like, I mean, when I go to a strange lake to fish, the first thing I do is I waypoint the boat launch, because if I get taken away all the way over, then all of a sudden it's in behind an island. You can't even find your boat launch again. You know what I mean? You're lucky to find it. So you run a track, but you always put a waypoint in the boat launch too. So it's important. You know what I mean? And I'm not the smartest guy in the lake, so I have to have a little bit of a trail.
All right, let's do this then. Let's just say that you must have one when you go on one of these outback adventures, but you bury it, to Kevin's point, you bury it in the bottom of a backpack, knowing that it's there in the event of an emergency. You can pull it out and at least start figuring out where you are. How's that? Can we do that?
Sure, we can do that.
We go out with nothing.
Okay, perfect.
All right. So to that point, somebody would like to know, I think it was Stacy Selden, wants to know, where can you even get good old school type topo maps and a compass course? Because reading a compass, that takes a bit of experience and skill.
Yeah, big time. So I teach my students at the college. I teach there part-time, right? So the students are I teach them map and compass first, and then GPS. And the main reason why, they'll say, why? I just use the GPS. I go, if you know how to use a compass, you'll actually know how the GPS works, and it will all make sense to you when you're doing it. And so yeah, map and compass for sure. We still at School of Natural Resources, that's a common course, the first thing they do, which is hilarious. It's hilarious to take. I love teaching these young guys, right? Because I say, okay, I'm going to give you a map and compass, going to give you a heading, and I'm going to meet you at the end of the road at the end of the day. Here's an emergency kit. Good luck. And what they'll do is they'll get to a stream. I know the stream, right? It's a good trout stream, actually, but they have to do what's called an offset. So, or swim across the stream. But an offset is to go 90 degrees one way, go across the stream, and go 90 degrees the other way, get your heading again. So we do it all in class. Oh, no problem. And they panic because all of a sudden I've left them, right? And they're in the woods with just woods around them. And so 90% of them will get to the stream and just jump in the stream. And, oh, that's lovely. Oh, Christine just sent me a cup of tea. Oh, thank you. This is like whiskey time. It's just, but anyway.
So one guy gets the friggin' Starbucks, the other guy gets the tea with whiskey in it, and I'm sitting here drinking my smoothie that I had to make this morning before work. Okay, I see how it works.
Pete, your life sucks. I'm telling you. You gotta do something. Stand it up a bit. Oh yeah, these guys will actually swim the stream because they don't want to do the offset. And of course, they lose marks, right? So I'll get to the end and I'll wait for them at the bus, and they'll walk out the bush. I'll look at them, and whoever's wet, I go, so. Oh no, Kevin! No, I didn't swim the stream. I think you did.
God.
They love it. They'll talk about it for days. They actually went through the bush with a compass for the whole day, had a lunch with a fire. That was their big adventure. And then it's like we talked about before, like for fishing, they feel good about themselves, their skill set. And if you're like that, you're going to catch more fish. If you're confident, not arrogant, but confident, you'll catch more fish.
How about youngsters? What's the magic age? Because you can, and I know I've talked to enough fathers, usually fathers, not so much mothers, because they got a little more common sense.
Easy.
Who have said, hey, listen, what kind of advice can you give me? I'm going to take my two young kids into Algonquin and spend a week there. And, inadvertently, I always say, oh, great, that's fantastic. How old are they? Oh, geez, one's 5 and one's 4. And I stop in my tracks, and what's the age? What can you help us with that? Anybody watching this now that, listens to your stories and says, man, I got to go experience that, but I want to share it with my family, with my children. What's the magic number? Is there a magic number?
Yeah, there is. The moment they're born. The earlier the better. For various reasons, I can tell you in a quick way. My daughter, her first time in a canoe, she was 6 months old, but her first 12-day canoe trip, she was 2 years old. And yeah, that's kind of terrifying for people at home. But again, I have the devices that could get her out. I have a backup plans. I didn't do a far remote trip. 2-year-old doesn't know where they are as long as they have a beach and a campfire. Yeah. And then later on, my daughter, she was 8, and her and I paddled across Algonquin for 12 days from one end to the other. Wow. And she loved it. And now why I'm saying that is now she's 16. She just turned 16. Dad, I don't want to do a canoe trip this year. I want to hang with my friends, right? It will change. Take them out. Don't wait till they're teenagers. Get them out early, because what will happen to her, and hopefully what will happen to her, is that in a couple of years or maybe next year, she'll switch and she'll start going out with her friends.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think that's the same
There
in
is no
fishing. Too, you know?
There is no age limit for you.
Yeah. It's the same in fishing. Like my boys right now, Mikey Cole used to want to come up with me all the time. Now he wants to stay at home and die with his buddies and all that. I know it's going to come back. And it's the same with me when I was with my dad. There was a little stint there where I wanted to just hang with my buddies and go partying on the weekends and all that stuff. I soon got rid of that and went right back into fishing, and it got better, bigger and better than ever, right? So I think that's starting young thing, and no matter what you're doing, especially when the outdoors is involved, when people get, when they get that sniff of the outdoors at a young age, they know it's there forever. You know what I mean? It's so nice.
Yeah.
So there you go. Anybody, because I was about to tell you, don't bring them in too young. What do I know? The happy camper just said, hey, right after birth is fine. So
give birth in the canoe if you can. Bring a doctor with you.
what do I know?
Oh God.
We or most of us, I won't say we, anybody who's spent any amount of time in the outdoors with groups always know that the dynamics are not always perfect. And you always end up, inadvertently, you end up with one or two or three out of the group who do 90% of the work. And when I say work, I mean the grunt work. Yeah. And the balance are just like, do one of these and in awe. And how do you change that? If you're putting together a group, say a group of 8 or 10 people, and you have various levels of skill and experience, as the group organizer, how do you lay down the law? How do you get this working like a team?
Yeah, that's a really important thing. There's a whole bunch of group dynamics issues you have to deal with. First of all, you have to choose a leader, because you have to complain to the leader if something goes wrong.
Right.
But you do need a leader to say, these are the things your jobs are, and give them the jobs that they're good with, and they're comfortable with, so they're given a job. So if they don't do their job, then they can't complain, because look, if you're supposed to put the tarp up and you didn't put the tarp up, it's not John's fault, right? And then they feel better about themselves because they'll know what to do. So you have to lead them, right? And make sure everybody, and this is really important for you, for fishing guys, because I have had problems with this in the past. Have a trip idea of what people want from the trip, because that's usually what happens with conflict. Everybody will agree that it's a fishing trip. So I was on one trip in Algonquin. Actually, no, it was Dunlop Lake up in LA Lake. We did a route through there. And one guy bailed out, so another buddy joined in, and I said to my buddy, well, who is this guy? What's his experience? What's he want out of the trip? I don't know, but we need him. We're going tomorrow. I went, well, no. It's a long trip, but so we're going to get stuck with this guy. And the very first 10 minutes, I start casting, and the guy goes, what, are we fishing on this trip? I don't like fishing. And it was an 8-day trip in major brook trout country, right? And I'm thinking, well, then you can go home, buddy. It's like, because there's 6 of us or 5 of us that are here to fish for the spring. So I'm not sure why you're here. And all the time he was bored. He goes, well, we just have to wait for you while you're fishing. Yes, you do. So the problem is he should never have gone on that trip. He was an okay guy, but he should never have gone on that trip.
Yeah.
Or people that actually, do have the jobs, but then don't do it. Or the worst is not bring the gear and then borrow others. Like I'll bring jubes, and I'll have a jube every 1,000-meter portage just to get me through it. The red ones are good, right? And I had the one guy, same guy actually, he didn't bring any treats, so he started eating my jubes. And I went, you're going to die.
I would buy that trip too, Kevin, because I love jujubes. And if I knew you had a sack of jujubes, I'd be ripping them off you too.
Well, what about the fishing lures? If you're using a fishing lure that works and your buddy doesn't have it, I'll eventually give it to him. But if he takes it without me knowing, it's the same thing as the jubes, right? It's like,
well, it's Steve and it's Ricky. After Angelo discovered a couple of new baits, I couldn't get my hands on the damn things. Ricky had them tied on 3 days before the trip, for Christ's sake.
It's so true. It's so true.
Oh my God.
A couple of personal stories on that note. And I remember his name, just the funniest, one of the funniest guys I'd ever met. His name was Brian Chase. And he got into this group that we had going on for years, sort of under the radar. Nobody really knew much about him, type of thing, one of those guys, but lovable, funny and it kept the group entertained and all that stuff. But he felt that his sole responsibility was to be the entertainment center. He was there to entertain everybody. And the price that everybody had to pay for his entertainment was the fact that they had to carry all his stuff. They had to carry all his weight. He did nothing. I mean, nothing.
Was he an entertainer?
He was the entertainment. This guy would plan months ahead of time every day's entertainment. So like he'd be out in the middle of nowhere and he'd pull stuff out of his pack, like a big stuffed bunny or something, and sneak it into the woods and say, "Hey, what's that in the woods?" Like that kind of But that's why I asked you about the dynamics. But it's funny because we kind of assimilated him into the group. We were willing to do the heavy lifting because he was so good at what he brought.
Yeah.
And that was that comedy, that entertainment that we had on it. And we never knew when it was coming out. We knew it was coming. We didn't know where and when and in what form it would be in. So we were okay with it.
That's awesome.
But we also had others who would come in and it only lasts 1 year and then they were out. That just didn't get the fact that everybody has to hold their weight. They need to contribute somehow. When you're in the woods for 4 or 5 days, 10 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if you don't have all team members, and we watch TV series like Survivor and all that, those reality shows, that's what the whole program is based on, is being able to work with a team. And I just wonder, in your particular case, because you are the consummate outdoorsman, do you get people that fall into that category, or do they pretty much get in line with you?
I really scrutinize who goes on my trips beforehand, because the main reason is, I used to guide a lot. I don't guide anymore, but my job was guiding strangers, and there was always a couple that I wanted to never go out with again. So when I went out with my buddies, I didn't want to guide anymore. I wanted to enjoy my trip, so I wanted everybody to get along. And also, I take a lot of youth out. So when I go out on a trip with my buddies, I really choose who I go with. Yeah, that's why I go solo a lot.
Well,
really,
there is that too, right?
Those people that Anne's just talking about, though, I'm going to just take a shot at this. I'll bet you throw that person on a construction site and he's got his hands in his pocket until he's told what to do. He's just they're just built not to take initiative. They're not workers. You know what I mean? Like to see people carrying, doing this, and the canoes on the shoulders, and so they're all then something laying on the ground. You don't pick it up. There's something wrong with that person, right? That person's built in lazy or dumb. There's one of those two. You know what I mean? There's nothing else. But another one. More importantly, I see a comment over here from Tony that says, "Ange, you look pretty good considering what happened last night." I got to know what that is right there. Tony, unless he's just getting a comment in, I want to know, Angelo, what happened last night?
Our Leafs lost.
Oh, okay.
Our Leafs lost.
Okay, sorry.
Tony, because the pain was unbearable, and I was in pain until we went on at noon, and I kind of been able to forget it. But thank you for bringing it back up.
I get you. So, okay, thank you. Thanks, Tony. Right on.
But we have a game tonight. Okay, we have a game tonight, so let's not get too depressed.
What do you guys think? Let's move off subject. What do you guys think about sports being happened during the COVID, during this crazy pandemic and all that? What's your quick thought on that one?
Well, more importantly, let's ask Kevin how the pandemic is affecting his industry. How about that?
Well, that's not answering my question.
Yeah, well, it kind of does for sport, actually. Because, it's funny. I was during the lockdown. I was okay because I'm used to at home riding and stuff like that. I needed to get out, and everybody needed to get out. We finally did get out, but it's scary as crap out there. The amount of people and not practicing social distancing in some of the parks. Like I was at Sleeping Giant the other day camping there, and it was a party, and I wanted to get the heck out of Dodge there. It was like, and then looking at sport, and the reason why, I guess, going back to Pete's question is, we're dying for something, right? Like we went through that whole pandemic thing. We're dying it, which is really healthy that a majority of people want to escape that by going outdoors. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Or sports, or going back and communicating. My daughter, that's what she misses. She misses hanging around with her friends. And she's not even looking at the computer anymore. She just really just wants to hang around and chat with her friends, right? So with sports, yeah, everybody wants to gather together. I just don't hope it doesn't hit us back, because what I saw at that park, if it's going to come back, it's going to start in that park. What I saw, the amount of people that were gathering on that beach. I mean, you know, I don't know too much about the whole thing. I maybe stopped watching media after a while and I just gave up. Just go off in the woods.
Right.
What I found really interesting though is, and this will blow you away. Think about what happened. All the people that thought if something happened in the world, they would just run to the bush to survive. Well, during the pandemic, we weren't allowed to. Isn't that weird?
Mm-hmm.
And I find that really funny, because I go to the survivalists. I'm talking about the crazy survivalists, not the bushcraft guys, right? And they're like, oh, you know, if crap it hits the fan, I'm just going to go off in the woods. I go, well, you weren't allowed to. So you better, you know, isn't that kind of odd?
Yeah.
That is kind of odd now that you mentioned it, isn't it? You'd almost think we would have all been told, hey, everybody run out to the woods. Get away from urban centers.
No.
Run to the woods and hide behind a tree.
No, and survival now too is, so I went on a canoe trip and in Algonquin, and then I didn't see anybody for 5 days, and it was so beautiful. And this is right when we're allowed to, the week that we're allowed to go into the interior, and it was all beautiful. And then I got to the boat launch, and all these people, and I went, oh my God, that's right. You know, we got to put the mask on. Oh my God! And all of a sudden, you go from wilderness by yourself to all of a sudden a boat launch, and these people at the boat launch were just idiots. Like they were looking at me, and I went, they go, what's your problem? I go, I want you to move. Well, why? Because I don't want the virus. Go away. And because I'm this bush crazed guy to come out of the woods, hadn't seen anybody for 5 days, and all these people all gathering around. And I'm not going to spend all that time making sure I don't get it just so somebody at the boat launch will give it to me.
Yeah. It was so, I think the thing was, it was so new, right? It was just, everything was so new. We didn't, when they said don't go in the bush, now they're saying it's better in the bush or whatever. Nobody knew what was going on at first, right? We still don't know what's going on, but at least now we're getting a little bit of a grasp of it. You know, we're getting kind of used to it, like the mask thing you just said, like that. I still forget. I went in yesterday, I had to go into some place and I forgot to bring a mask. I said, shit, I forgot my mask. You see other people with it. You got to turn around and walk all the way back to your truck to get your mask. You know, it's still pretty odd and new to us. So
yeah, so I just got back from that 10-day trip where I went, you know, to Timmins, to Dryden, I drove 3,000 kilometers through the north, right? And it was really interesting is I'm used to wearing the mask because where I live, right? But they were just to have the signs on all the small stores and Chapelot, whatever, saying wear a mask, and probably 80% of the people were like, what? Because in their minds, it's like they're safe up there, right?
Right. What are you reading, Ange?
I'm reading all kinds of interesting stuff here. There's it's amazing how many people are into what Kevin is doing, and that is experiencing the outback. And we can answer a million questions, and we will. If you want to throw a couple more up real quick, Mike, if you could just pull them out of at random. There we go. What camera do you use on canoe trips?
Oh,
Good.
Two cameras, really lightweight cameras. I use a Sony mirrorless camera.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And this guy, it's like a GoPro. It's like a GoPro, but it's Sony's version. And it has stabilizer in it, like built-in stabilizer, because I shake a lot because I'm all hyper.
Is that Sony? Is that the AS3?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And the new one, the quality is fantastic. And I use the other one small. Like when I do the Mini Link, there's no way I'm going to bring a big camera. And I bring the solar. I bring enough batteries, but then I'll bring solar for the rest of it. And
you're not afraid of dropping that Sony mirrorless into the lake, because that's got to be worth a few dollars, right? That thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. And the more I think about it, the worse I am. So yeah.
Have you ever been lost, Kevin?
I've never been lost, but I've been confused of my whereabouts. There's a difference.
Yes.
The one time I was really quite nervous, I was actually on the Miss Nabby again on a solo trip going towards James Bay, and it was early morning, and I actually see a wolf on the left shore, and I thought it was cool, so I pulled my canoe up to the shore, I ran off the bush, but it's all boreal forest, right? So I never did see the wolf, but then I had to go back to my canoe, and I didn't know which way to go, and oh crap. So the sun was rising in the east, right? So it was early morning, so I actually sort of offset a bit to the right. So I went, upstream? So I walked downstream on my canoe, and I was panicking because I was like, oh crap, I'm by myself in the middle of by James Bay, right? And the wolf was on the other shore, and like I've made stories up, but this is, and the wolf is on the other shore looking at me like, "What's your problem?" Like, it was really cool. Yeah.
Well, that would be cool.
Wow.
I got a question for you. We joked around with it. We pussyfooted around with it. We always throw it in the mix as a ha ha ha. But alcohol. I mean,
I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
And now I can even throw, because it's legal, any substance like marijuana.
Yeah.
Do they have a place on these outback adventures?
It's like everywhere. Like I love my scotch, and I do whiskey chat and everything else, and everybody hands me scotch at bottles of scotch at all these canoe shows I go to, whatever. And I'm not the Canoe Martin of the canoe, or the Dean Martin of the canoe world. Like I've never been wasted. I'm not, right? I mean, I like it, but my daughter has never seen me wasted. I've never been drunk on a canoe trip, because first of all, waking up in that hot tent in the morning really hurts.
Not good.
And yeah, some of my buddies will bring pot. I don't. I mean, I don't. I'm not against it. It's just it's not my thing. But they'll do it, and they'll laugh, saying, "Well, it's lighter," and it is. But none of my buddies get out of hand. But maybe it's our age. When I take the youth out, they're not allowed for various reasons. But what I do with them, and this is a great controversy to get going with you guys, is that my rule is, if one person gets caught, the entire trip goes back and loses their credit, and which is really extreme. But why I do that is, if you get one person that brings it and say, okay, it's all right, and then burn the pot in the fire, and then they'll go back to the program and say, oh, Kevin was okay, bring it. But if you tell them all they'll lose, they'll find the one that brings it, and it's lure the flies. They'll actually make sure. So I'm not doing the job. The other students are doing the job. They'll find that kid that has the booze and say, don't bring it, because we're in trouble.
Right.
But for us going on trip, yeah, just again going back to my mom, just didn't be stupid. Like, and don't put your whiskey in your food barrel and loosen the lid. It was everywhere.
You've been with me.
Oh my God! The first night, my booze is gone.
I will never forget, one of the worst things I ever had to do one time was to sleep in a sleeping bag that had been doused with whiskey.
Oh,
yeah. 7-day trip, and it was cold as hell. So my temptation was to put the bag in the lake and get rid of it. But I knew that I wouldn't be able to sleep in the bag the rest of the trip, right? So I toughed it out, and I slept in whiskey for 6 nights. It was a nightmare. You would think it'd be fun. It was a nightmare. So.
And if you go to all my Algonquin trips with my buddy Ashley, I think 4 times in 4 years I've spilled whiskey, and he just says, "What is wrong with you? Can you not just tighten the lid, right?" Yeah. And the one time he forgot his air mat to sleep on, so I said, "I'll give you mine if you give me your whiskey." So it was a good change.
We got to almost wrap it, Ans, but I want to do a lightning round. Ever you got one more question, or we got time for lightning?
No, I got a couple of lightning questions too, so this will be a good time.
You got up, Michael. Beautiful. So Kevin, on this, we're just going to give you quick little questions, and we just like 1-word, 2-word answers. Okay, just quick and right off the cuff. It's easy. It's fun part of it. You want to start, Ans? You want me to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
Kevin, when it comes to that trip of a lifetime in the outback, wife or best buddy?
Woo! Nice. I can't undo that question. It's over.
Best buddy. I don't have a wife, so.
Significant other or best friend, if you did.
Well, your wife is your best buddy, right?
Wow, nice one.
He's got this covered. See, he's got this covered.
Nice. I like it.
I'll do one next, Ange. Kevin, for a canoe, what is the best material, hands down?
The one that isn't heavy.
What is the best material, hands down?
Kevlar.
Thank you. What about a paddle?
Beaver tail.
Okay, go ahead, Ange.
If you had to choose one, and it was going to be your last trip, Quetico or Algonquin?
Oh, ooh.
Quetico.
Yeah, nice.
Kevin, what is the nastiest Canadian animal in the wild when you're out camping? The one you'd have to worry about the most?
The human being.
Aside from the human being.
Oh,
because that's a good one. That is true.
Yeah. Gosh, the nastiest would be a ground wasp nest on the portage.
Oh, okay. There you go. I can agree with that one because I hate those suckers more than anything. So,
They hurt.
okay. You got another one to answer? You got any more?
I've got one. When you're in the outback and you're on, say, a 5-day trip, what's more important to you, cleanliness or food?
Oh, cleanliness, actually. Yeah, if your hygiene goes, I see that so many times. If your hygiene goes, then your mental state goes. You can catch a fish or eat other things, but yeah, if you go into a wild man thing, good luck to you.
Imagine Howie Mandel on one of those trips.
Oh man, yeah.
You go insane. Okay, Kevin, give me a number. Don't do your little walk around bullshit you've been doing here, all these answers, okay? Best overall length of a canoe.
The best length of canoe, 16 foot.
Thank you. See? Beautiful. See?
I am shocked. Now that one, I am shocked. I am shocked. I will never be the same.
What?
16 and not 17.
Well, you can't solo a 17, but you can tandem a 16. So and
Oh.
16. So
See, and you know why? And you know why you
a lot of them, Viola. You didn't use as many as him. Even no matter how many you took.
No. In all fairness to me, the reason that he said that is because I have never done solo, and I would never dream of doing solo. So for me, 17 is a no-brainer. But you're right. If you're doing both and you can only have one canoe, 16 would be it.
Yeah. 17 you can bring more gear and it's going to be more streamlined and but
16.
16 it is. What the hell do I know for crying out loud? I'm not the happy camper. Come on.
I got one more. You got one more?
Oh, I'm done, buddy.
Okay, Kevin, the most important one. What is the biggest fish you've ever caught from a canoe in your canoe?
Species though, or just big fish?
Biggest size species, whatever.
Okay, it was a northern pike in Poobah Lake in Quetico. I don't know how long it was because we didn't measure it, but it was pretty much 3/4 of the size of that canoe. It was a 16-foot canoe. It had moss on its head. It was so big and old.
Nice. Let's say it's a 20 to 30 pound pike, somewhere in that area. Probably.
It terrified me. It was like, who's going to take that fish off? I'm not. Like, yeah.
Nice. Excellent. Super.
Yeah. I was going to go someplace, and I'm not even going to go there. Kevin, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you giving us this much time. We really do appreciate it. I love what you do, man, and you bring so much joy and happiness to people who don't get an opportunity to experience the things that you do, but you allow them to join in and live vicariously through your writings, your books, your blogs. By the way, Kevin has a blog on fishingcanada.com on a regular basis. We'd like to see more from him, but we know he's busy. But some great blogs that Kevin does there. You can find him on his own YouTube channel. You can find him all over the internet. You can see him in person when we get back to doing events. One day it's going to happen. You have to experience this man. Even if for a fleeting moment, to truly be able to grasp the meaning of a human in the wild, because this is the guy that can turn that book, that leaf, that page for you. And we appreciate you calling you as a friend, my friend. It's
okay, that's fantastic. That's a huge honor, you guys. I love you guys' work, and I always have.
Well, thank you. And let's stay in touch. Check him out. He's the Happy Camper. Kevin Callan, thanks, buddy. You take care of yourself. Have a great summer. Kevin Callan, what an extraordinary man.
I said that to everybody. You're going to enjoy this guy. His attitude is just the best. You can tell he's truly a good guy. You just know it,
He's one guy that even at my advanced age, I would love to spend a few days with in the outdoors.
Yeah, it'd be
Just
fun.
see him in action. I think it'd be
Oh yeah.
such a delight.
Yeah, yeah. Even
Why don't we do a shoot with him?
I was gonna say even on a boat, like even on one of our big boat, he'd be a ride on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Put that in our to-do list when we get better.
Why don't we?
Guys, I'm very sorry. I have to interrupt. I hate to do this. I know I feel rude.
Oh,
I'm so sorry, but I just got some really exciting news, and it has to be shared. I don't know if you guys got the memo, but today's a really significant day for the fishing community. Do you know this?
no. What's going on?
You don't. All right, hold on. We've got someone who has more information than I have. Bear with me one moment, okay?
Okay. Wow. What? Like, is this breaking news?
You guys are friggin' peaches, let me tell you. I can't believe it. I've been sitting here for 20 minutes instead of being fishing. My birthday today. Now wait a minute. I got to center myself up.
It's
Did you say it was your birthday?
Yeah, it's my birthday. Hang on.
Okay,
Happy birthday, Daryl!
There we go.
There you go.
Geez, I've been sitting here waiting instead of being out fishing.
Well, you
You
might
weren't
want to
standing anywhere. You're sitting in that chair.
I wanted me to surprise you.
Oh, the surprise. Well, you surprised the hell out of us, buddy. How you doing, man?
That was awesome.
I'm going crazy. I'm really pissed off at the MNR.
What's
Uh-oh.
going on?
What did they do now?
Well, we had the Corona thing, for starters.
We
Right.
did?
And they had those fish pens out in the lake, where they
Right.
take the little salmon. Well, they
Right.
decided they didn't want the members rubbing shoulders. So I said, fine, do not take those fish and put them off the breakwalls. Put
Right.
them up the river, up at Brawny, up at Streetsville. We're going to do that. Where'd they stock them all? Right in the lake.
When was this?
Just back in right after we talked, back at the end of April. So what they did was they did some of the original stocking up the river to imprint, but the ones that were supposed to go in the pens, they just dumped them right off the beaches. Every one of those fish is kaput.
Okay, I thought you told me that you had this whole situation under control and that you finally were able to get through to these people,
Yeah.
that they need to listen to you and do it the way that you're offering them to do it. And now you're telling me they didn't listen to you?
Oh, well, I got it. The original stuff, I was getting it from the in-between guys that are on these lake task force, how they sit down with the ministry.
Right.
And they said, no, they promised us they're going to put them in Lowville at Port Credit. And you got to understand, they're bringing them from Ringwood, right? The fish.
Right.
It's faster to drop them right right off the 401 at Port Credit and that. They took them and dumped them off the lake. So half the fish they raised, they might as well kiss.
By the way, all of our audience is wishing you all the best, my friend, as usual. You get more.
72 today. I never thought I was going to see 32.
I didn't think you'd see 30 either.
I know. You know what? It's probably there's probably better odds of you hitting 73 than us getting our cookbooks. I'll say that.
Okay, I got a feedback with you about that, and so does our audience. We have been fielding emails from each and every one of them, and they're all saying the same thing. Did Daryl send you the cookbooks yet?
Hold it now. Hold it.
Don't pull the cookbooks out now because they're no good. No good to us in your screen.
Oh, look, he's froze now. He shut himself up. Look, he's got one eye.
That picture. That picture was oh, here he is.
Okay, what was that question again?
Where's the cookbooks that you promised us?
Monica, did you not send them those two cookbooks?
Oh, here we go.
She's packing bags right now. Grab 2 cookbooks for Ange and Pete. I got a short memory. I'm getting old.
Oh, you're not getting old, buddy.
You guys can listen to me anyways.
Well, there's something I was surprised at, but you're hitting your peak, buddy. You're not getting old.
I feel like it. Honest to God, I really do.
No.
I was so upset before I got on here. I sent the premier and this new fisheries minister one hell of a letter.
What?
Something about what we're talking about. We're not hearing the news on the Atlantic salmon, which they told me they were going to cut way, way, way back.
Right.
They're still screwing around on the sardine. The fishway's buggered up. They were supposed to fix it. I mean, it's a dog and pony show.
At best.
You know, here's the deal. All these, I got to watch myself on this one, but say the fisheries director, and I don't know about this one, but the last 4 I worked with, well, they all went to school with the head of fish culture. They all went to school with, you know, this and this, and they're all buddies. And you get one screw up out of that group, and they don't want to call them a screw up. So we keep getting screw ups. And this has been going on we haven't had a good Minister of Natural Resources or a good fisheries program since Pope. You know, I mentioned this the last time. I'm dead serious, but you run it as a business, not as a damn experiment.
Yeah. I don't know whether I can agree with that comment. Pope was definitely a great minister, there's no doubt about it. I think there's been a few since then. But
well, I know you like the guy that lived in Oshawa. I know all that, but I want somebody that will listen to the anglers, not to his buddies that he went to school with, you know.
Jerry listened to the anglers.
I think our current minister, Yakubuski, I think he is doing a great job. Okay. Now,
well, that's why I sent him the letter this morning.
Okay. Well, wait to see what he says when he responds.
If he thinks I'm driving all the way to Pembroke, he's nuts. He can drive to work one day and stop in Buckhorn.
Here you go, John, if you're watching right now, Daryl is saying he's not going to come and see you in Pembroke.
I'll go to Queen's Park.
You're going to have to go to his place, and you're going to have to find him. You're going to have to figure it all out so it coincides with a time when he's awake, because by the looks of him, he sleeps all day now. Anyway.
Hey, now listen to this one. Now listen to this one. So I want to talk to the new district manager, and this is this girl that came from DFO, who doesn't know a lot, in my opinion. But anyways, anyway, no, I could give you a bunch of stories. But I find out that the District of Owen Sound is no longer the district. It's called the area office, not a district.
Oh.
The regional office used to be in, out near Barrie, Midhurst. They don't call the regional office the regional office anymore. It's the district office. I mean, they've shuffled things around. My opinion is shut Owen Sound down and just leave it for the 3 COs. Get rid of the biologist, get rid of the so-called district manager.
You don't like biologists, do you? You just don't like biologists.
It's on. I told you it's going to be on my obituary. I'm telling you. Before he died, he asked me, please don't send him back as an Atlantic salmon or a Ministry of Natural Resources biologist.
Totally
I'm dead serious.
Totally off topic. We broke the news here last week while we were online, much like you cut into our signal today. Last week we had Minister Yakubuski that broke in to release. We were the first ones to release it. And
bang, 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 bang.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
I wish they would have put it at 32 instead of. I think it's great.
Are you going to participate?
Yes.
Good for you.
Yeah, boy.
And I hope they're flying low and there's a bunch of sea-doos right behind them.
Hey, you know what? We're gonna set up a hunt with you two guys together. That would be the trip of all trips, right there. You two guys.
It's about time they did it. And what they did do is they made it even better than what the Americans have been doing for the last couple of years.
I know.
What did they do?
It kind of shocked me.
We're trying to figure it out though, Daryl. Pete and I have been trying to do the math on this because there's some people who will say, wow, you know, this might be opening up the barn doors, and once you open those doors, you can't close them again. What happens if everybody goes out and starts banging off cormorants? And then we all of a sudden, you know, they're going to have to go on the endangered species list and all that. So we started doing the math. We looked at the logistics behind that and what it would take for an individual like me, who's not a hunter. So I got to get all outfitted up. I got to go take the course. And then, because I'm not going to be a good shot, there's going to be probably a 10% chance that every shot I take may or may not hit something. So it's going to cost me 50, maybe $75 a day to bag 15 birds. Well, I think after a couple of days of that, the novelty is going to wear off, and there's not going to be that many people out there doing it. So I don't think it's going to be, oh my God, you know, we're going to decimate the cormorant population. What's your opinion of that?
Well, like, to be honest, 20 years ago, I was up at Meldrum Bay on Manitoulin Island. 3 flyby. We're doing a shore lunch part of the show. 3 flyby, and I'm watching the camera. And as I look, 6 flyby, then 20 flyby, then 1,000. I swear to you, almost 1,000 flyby. And they actually herd the alewife right into the bays.
Yeah,
they're that smart. They herd them into the bays, and they eat till they can't eat anymore, but they still kill. Right. So I started up the Mako and went for a boat ride at 60 miles an hour. Right? But all these people are saying, so I'm waiting for PETA or PETA to make a big stink about this. You know, it's going to come.
Oh, it's going to come.
And the suggestion is you take them out to dinner, right? In a banquet hall, all these members of the Fur Bearers, Tree Hugging,
careful.
And you eat Cormorant, because I guarantee you Cormorant are going to taste just like turkey.
I love it. That's a great plan.
Monica, if you're in the background there somewhere, can you just take Mr. Kranzi's chair and just move him a little bit center of the camera? Because I know he's too damn lazy to do it himself. So the other way.
I've been moving the thing. Well, is that not good?
There you go.
There you go.
I'm getting old, but
I'm going to go ahead.
I was amazed when they brought in the cormorant hunt.
That's
So
great.
the hunters thing, what's going to happen, in my opinion, is what Ann says. The novelists are going to go out and go, oh yeah, it's going to wear out. But the true hunters, the true fishermen, the true guys that know what's going on and will help put a dent in the population, they will keep at it. They'll be good at it. They're the ones that are going to make the numbers come down anyways, right?
You know, they could have gone, if you go over the Burlington Skyway as you're going up over it, you know, towards Fort Erie.
Yeah.
You look over, there's 4 or 5 islands there, and that's a real nookery. And all they had to do to go in there with a can of kerosene and dot the eggs.
Yeah, of course.
Right? I used to do it to the Canada geese on my lake, which was legal.
Okay.
And they'll sit on the egg, but they won't hatch.
They won't hatch. Exactly.
Yes, you're right. I was going to say that's why they did the oiling program, because they found that if they just destroyed the eggs, they would lay more eggs. So it was a no-win proposition, right?
I can't believe I sat here and listened about compasses and GPSs for half an hour. I sent you a message in the corner, and they were afraid to send it to you. And also, I told that lovely girl that works for you and that great engineer that they deserve big raises.
Oh, good. Well, you know what? I agree with you 100%. So what I think I'm going to do, because things are a little slow here, a little tough, I'm going to send them both to seek employment with you, because obviously there's a greater opportunity with you.
I'll send them
I wouldn't want to deprive them of it.
I'll send them out house hunting.
Daryl,
I'm looking at
Daryl, he's going to pay them weekly, very weekly, unfortunately. So
I could have heard the apologies they were giving me.
Oh, I can imagine. Have you been out fishing this year, buddy?
Yeah, just me and McKessick actually drove to Nakina and flew in with the keg.
Oh, really?
And on the Trans-Canada, this is no kidding. Once we hit, 11 going up, we never saw more than 20 cars probably. This was a month ago. We saw the transports, but not the cars. And they need help up there. And even the motels had signs up. The Quality Inn at, north of Temagami, 40 miles. They had signs out, $80 specials for the truck drivers, because it was only truck drivers on the road. Yeah,
I'm getting some, messaging from some of our friends with operations in Northern Ontario, lodges and places there, and they're saying they're getting calls from folks from Southern Ontario, and this does not mean that everybody's doing this, but all it takes is one, because that's the one that you remember. And they're getting calls from Southern Ontario with guys saying, "Hey, listen, I hear you're at 50% off up there, and if you are, I may have a couple of buddies and myself who might want to come fishing." And that disturbs me. That really disturbs me.
It still costs a lot of money to run those float planes and pay. I mean, there are going to be some deals, but not the big deals. Yeah, and I feel sorry for these camps.
Oh my God, it's terrible, and we should not be looking. Although everybody wants to stretch that dollar, but this is not the time to be frugal. This is the time to say, "Hey, I have not taken a trip for 5 years, or I'm looking for a trip of a lifetime. Let me book it now, when it's really going to make a difference and it's going to help somebody out, and I'm going to have the trip of a lifetime." let me just call somebody up and give them my business because they need it.
We went into the keg. Now here's the thing. I live and die on the keg, and I can catch 200-300 walleye in a day. This is, if you know what you're doing there. This is no fish story, but they've got real good northern fishing. They got brook trout fishing, but they've got good lake trout. And I never knew it was that good. I've been going there for 15, 20 years, never bothered with a lake trout. They're actually catching their lake trout. I thought it was way up the lake, 400 yards across the lake. And, you know, like a lot of people that don't do a lot of fishing, they troll, right? I like vertical jigging. There's nothing I like better for walleye. I don't, and I wish I would have brought my Erie Dearies. I would have even countdown fish for the damn thing. But people were coming in with lake trout. I mean, big lake trout. And they were trolling for walleye, and they were catching walleye, pike, and all the lake trout they could keep.
So what do you make of that?
Wow. It's just the way this lake is. It's about 15 miles long, right? And you can get lost on it. You know, your guest was talking about, I never took my hand GPS with me. You know, you were talking about it?
Yeah. And
I had my old Lawrence, the fish finder with it. Oh yeah, it wouldn't even read the straight line. And I said, McKessick says I'll drive. I said, yeah, go ahead. I took it down. I let him bring it back, and I knew right away he made the one wrong turn. He said, where are we? And I says, I knew, but I says, I don't know. And he couldn't read it on this old fish finder. And he was, you know, you talk about sweating when you get lost.
Oh, yeah.
I said, will you listen to me from now on, you arsehole? You know, but I was the arsehole. I forgot my GPS handheld.
Yeah.
Have you ever been lost in the outdoors?
Not really. Not where you'd say lost. Like I go by the sun and everything else. So.
Well, yeah, right. You're at one with Mother Earth. I forgot you and Mother Earth. You're like,
now you're being
either
just
you're at the sun or you're back to the sun, and sometime you're going to hit shore. You know,
exactly.
Not like, you can't see the sun.
Exactly.
I'm lost every day. I'm lost from morning until night. For God's sakes.
I take you know who to the grocery store. She can't find the aisle, let alone the parking lot.
Monica, don't let him say that.
But it's
full of crap.
But getting back to this, honest to God, if they don't clean their act up, we'll start at Queen's Park. He's the boss, right? And I'm hoping big things from him. But they got to get these district or area office off their ass, quit the goddamn experimenting, and worry about the fishery, because that's what's going to help the economy.
Oh, for sure.
You know, it's a mess on the Saugeen. It is a total mess. It's a mess around Lake Ontario. And all these guys get in while I sit on the lake unit. They pat these guys on the back, the ministry, make them feel like somebody, and they don't get anything accomplished.
So let's get a little political, shall we? I know you don't like going in that area, but let me. So here's what I read in the news, not this morning.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. So here's what I read in the news. So I read one story about Canada giving $5 and God, don't send me emails about me being
I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
All this stuff. But anyways, we're sending $5 million to the unfortunate situation that happened in Beirut a couple of days ago with the explosion. So we were first in line signing a check for $5 million, which is all well and good under normal conditions. Okay. And then immediately after that, I read an article where our new Minister of Tourism, McLeod, just had a big press conference, and she was all delighted, thrilled to death to say, hey, great news. We've just earmarked $1.5 million to help our tourism industry in the north and rural areas to, make it through this pandemic. And I thought, is there something wrong here? Is it just me, or is there something wrong with this messaging? We're sending $5 million away, and we have our own explosive situation right here in this province, never mind in this country, right here in our own backyard. There are families in Northern Ontario that have businesses that are 3 and 4 generations old that are on the cusp of going under. That to me is a disaster.
We're older now. Like, I don't worry too much about my money. Okay. Except I don't want my kids to take it.
If I had your money, I wouldn't worry about
I don't want
mine.
my kids forcing me into a nursing home, you know, and he gets the Mako. That's never. But not kidding. It is a mess.
Oh.
It's like we've got a fisheries minister, federal, Bernadette Jordan, out of St. John somewhere. She knows absolutely nothing, and she's from the coast, about fishing and things. She knows nothing what's going on, and it's a disaster in BC. We're going to lose that entire fishery. I mean, it's going down, and the tackle guys in the resorts, they're making it sound rosy. It is not rosy. It's ready to totally. Once those genetics are gone, they're gone. But she's out there every day. I've got her on Facebook trying to get votes already. Every day, kissing butt to the voters, but no common sense. I mean, and it's the same thing. There's no common sense when we send all that money to anywhere outside the country. I'll tell you one thing. I was worried about our premier, right? You know, before this Coronas thing happened and all that. I'm impressed. The premier, right?
Right.
Not trying to get brownie points, but he surprises me. I don't know about this new minister. I really don't. He lives in Pembroke. I'm not going to Pembroke. I'll drive down to Queen's Park and then go to Jake's. But, you know.
Did you have to go on a pee break, Mr. Bowman?
No, I had a phone call that I had to take. Yeah, sorry about that. It was very, very, very much had to.
But it's crazy, guys. I mean, it's common sense to do stuff. And in the old days, I mentioned this before to you, we had a thing called the executive director of fisheries, okay, Lloyd Eccles. And he actually was the go-between the minister and the head of fisheries, you know, and all this stuff. They need one real bad to straighten this boat out, because we don't even run this close to what New York's doing right now.
Can we put Derek's message up, Mike?
There's nothing wrong with helping.
Nothing wrong with helping some of the poorest people in the world. In Beirut, $5 million is a really modest contribution to the aid for a rich country like Canada. Okay, all right, let's deal with that if we can, because I'm the one who sparked this subject.
We're rich. We're not rich, are we?
Well, apparently we are. But that's fine. And I don't think we're here to dispute whether.
I want Canadians first. You take care of it.
We're not here to dispute whether we're wealthy or not as a nation. And I don't know whether we are. I have to believe what I see, and that is that to service the debt that we have accumulated over the past certainly couple of years in this country as a whole will be some economists are saying insurmountable, but I'm not going to use that word.
Especially since this Corona thing. I mean, we're spending money to, you know.
Right. So
we're also paying for all those motels at the Toronto airport from the last parachute drop.
So what I'm trying to say with the comment I made, stop it. With the comment I made is very simple. I'm all for helping, but I'm all for making sure that we are healthy before we help others.
And our kids are going to be healthy. And
that comes with spending a lot of time in the outdoors. As we just finished talking with Kevin Callan, who is a survivalist. He's an outdoors person who has spent most of his adult life surviving in the outdoors. If you're not healthy yourself, you cannot help others. And that's one of the most important things that they teach you in survival courses is if somebody goes in the water from your canoe and you're out in the middle of nowhere, make sure you're safe first. Because if you're not going to be able to help somebody else.
Yeah.
That's the spirit I used when I said $5 million to Beirut right now is a huge amount, when that $5 million, which is not enough, by the way, could be spread out amongst the 1,600 companies, family-owned businesses in Ontario that are in peril right now.
A lot of people have no idea how bad it is with these lodges. And I'm telling you, it's
because you know why? Most of us have not felt it yet. Most of us in the southern part of the province have not felt this yet. We will.
I do not want them opening the borders. I mean, that's me.
Oh,
and you know, when it was, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, they had the Keys totally locked off. You could not go from Miami to the Keys. If you lived in the Keys, they really didn't want you going to Miami to work. They were that worried. Well, then all these I don't want to get into politics, but all these nutcases opened all this up, right? And they flooded Miami, you know, and all that. And it's a disaster zone there. Yeah. And if we do it, which we are a little bit right now, I got these nutcases from Toronto coming up here on, you know, you might as well say it. It's true. We talked about this before. Christ, they're buying cottages to get away from Toronto. And they elbow you and they give you the shinnies and they don't wear masks up here. And I'm a 72-year-old guy. I'm in that watch out for your health age, right? I'm going to carry needles with me right in the meat market. I'm going to put some guy right over the sirloins. I mean, a lot of people, you don't believe the way they act.
That's true. That is true. There's some ignorant people out there.
The only problem I have with what you said, Daryl, is that, you know, you prefaced your comment by saying, I'm a 72-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm in that category. So I want to be selfish and make sure that I stay healthy. And so I don't want all of you younger people coming in and making me sick.
And,
okay. That's what it sounded like. No, that's what it sounded like.
Okay, no, I meant it that way. But anyways, listen to it. Listen. We have a little lake down the road called Sandy Lake, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've got one of the rapids down the road too. It's the kids. Now, you're almost 70. You're going to be retiring soon. Pete, you're
sure
55, 50. Okay?
Oh.
Okay, then when you got kids, you really start worrying about your kids and your grandkids, right?
Right.
But you get these, and you could see it happening as soon as they start opening the bars. Too stupid to go to the beer store and get a case of beer. They got to go to the bar shoulder to shoulder.
Yep.
You could see that happening. I go around this park. It's a little dinky park, 5 miles between me and Buckhorn. It handles, with social distancing, 25 people, 30 people. There's 200 there, blanket to blanket. Most of them, though, are in that 20 to 40-year-old range. And my wife said, well, they're social distancing, or they're all from the same family. I says 25, 20-year-olds, you know, and it's going to happen here if we don't smarten up.
It's true. So true.
You're sounding like an angry old man, Daryl.
Well, he needs to be angry in this bullshit.
I got up on a bad mood. You know,
it's a crazy world.
I thought I was going to have a great breakfast. I got 2 boiled eggs, so I went over and made my crispy sugar crisp, and I poured my sugar crisp by mistake into my coffee cup. And, you know, you try and get the sugar crisp out of your coffee. Left it in the 1 cup. To hell with it.
Oh, you're the best, Kranzi. You are the best.
Hey, you haven't sold the castle yet?
I'm waiting.
Oh, you're waiting for the big payoff, aren't you?
We went for 2 days to Lion's Head and Wyerton.
Yeah. And
I showed her a place I wanted to.
Who's her?
My lovely bride.
Thank you.
Anyways, we looked at 1 and we looked at 4. It'll come. I just said I don't want to move during the snow though, and that's only a couple months away.
So what do you want to do?
I want to go to Florida, and I can't go to Florida for that, you know.
Well,
this is affecting everybody.
No kidding.
I'm finally getting cabin fever, you know.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Do you get out every day on the lake at all, or no?
Yeah, pretty well, but I get saddle sores on the lawnmower all the time. So.
Whoa,
that's nice.
Whoa.
You're gonna have to start pushing them over again, Daryl. That's all you have to do.
The Mako's been sitting there on the trailer for almost a year and a half now.
You know what the shame of that is, Daryl? It really, at the end of the day, your son could make so much use out of that boat and enjoy it with your grandkids.
Everybody can see.
Your son could enjoy that, and yet you're denying him. What are you waiting to put it in your will so you can have it? Like,
no, I'm sticking my finger up in your action. Are you nuts? He's got 2 of them now. 2 of my boats.
Oh, one more is going to hurt. Just said it's sitting on the trailer, for God's sakes. Give him the boat.
He's got 2 of my boats already, I said. No.
I'm going
to do a Viking funeral. I use premium gas on those 2 Yamahas. I'm going to fill it about 4 inches thick with gas and get 3 or 4 archers with flaming arrows and put me in it. You know?
Perfect.
But no, but it is not a good situation around anywhere. It's
It's not. I agree
And to
with you.
compound it, we got stupid ministry people. I mean, a lot of good workers, but they got to do something with these bios and directors. Or not directors, sorry, I don't want to get, but the heads of the different divisions, fish culture and that.
Too bad we don't have a lightning round for Daryl. Do we, Pete?
No, I don't. That'd be pretty much off the cuff, wouldn't it? I think he's
I think
already
we did one.
answered every question we've had. So
I'd love to have another lightning round with him because he was so good on the last one.
well, if you
But
have
anyway,
one-
this was a surprise. They called me she called me last night. No, this morning. Can you stick around? I said, I was going to go fish. And we want to surprise him. I said, fine. What time? She said, 1 o'clock. It was 2 o'clock.
I didn't even know.
You know,
good idea.
better things about getting lost in the forest.
Anyways, you are always a treat, my friend. You know
You
that.
guys are welcome.
And you don't need an invitation to come on this show. In fact, I would love it if you just pop in.
I was sending little messages here.
He was.
When is this? When am I? And I thought she said you could read it. She said, "Oh no, we cut that off so he didn't see it."
Oh, see, they shouldn't do that. I'll talk to him about that.
I loved her. I shook her up this morning. You know,
They were working for the better of it. They wanted to surprise Ange. Nobody should be getting in shit for this, okay, boys? This is
yeah,
a
they
big-
thought, and I mean, I nailed her twice again today with smart ass replies. Right?
Oh, you
And she's laughing now. She's at the point. She's laughing. She didn't tell you what I said last week.
You're going to emotionally scar Sarah
poor Sarah.
if you keep calling like that.
She's a doll. She's a doll. Your engineer's good. They're underpaid. They were crying to me about it.
You know what, Daryl? You know, I agree with you. And I told you that before. And I was just thinking now, you know, it would be unfair to saddle them, you know, to send them to you for employment. I think that would be totally unfair to everybody in this situation. So why don't you just take some of those millions that you're sitting on, donate it to the cause, supplement their income.
That's
You
a
know,
big, that's a big story. I'm waiting for the ambulance to pull in one day and they say, get in. We're taking the nursing home. We just heard from your 2 kids.
That's there you go. Anyways, my friend, we got to go. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for taking some time out today. And happy birthday, everybody.
Happy birthday, DC.
Make sure you get their cookbooks.
Yes, make sure.
Monica's not even there right now, buddy. She's not even home.
Yes, she is. We'll see you guys.
Thanks, buddy. Take
Watch
care.
that,
Bye,
traffic down, watch that traffic down there and don't let anybody cough in over your shoulder.
You got
Thank
it,
you,
buddy.
buddy. Take care, man.
DC.
That was a great surprise.
Fantastic.
That was the legendary Daryl Kranzi. And I say legendary in the truest sense of that term. He was one of, in fact, I've said this before in this program. I believe he was the publisher of the most important magazine in the fishing industry in this country. That in the era at the time, it was the Bible.
Yeah.
Ontario Fisherman was the Bible, and every other magazine that's going now, in one way, shape, or form, kind of fashioned itself around what Daryl was doing back in the 70s and 80s with that magazine. So good on him. And of course, he joined the fraternity of television fishing shows as well. He came into the picture, I think, in the late 80s, and did a great job and built an incredibly loyal fan base with that product as well. So just a great guy. And you know, maybe justly so, he can be a very scruffy, rough-edged individual.
I think he tries to be. I think he tries. That's his personality, right? That's what he does. It's fine. That's good.
Exactly. So we just love him. We absolutely love him. What else we got, brother? Are we spent for the day?
We could give them tomorrow's Fishing Canada show in case they're ever wanting to watch that. Mikey could give a little preview of tomorrow's Fishing Canada show. I'm not sure if he has it there. It's Batchwana Bay Smallmouth Bass that Steve and I did last year, so that's coming on tomorrow morning. I don't know if we
Let's go do it. Let's do it. Got that up, boy, Peter. Now that's a smallie right there, man.
Good looking fish and fight like crazy.
Oh yeah, he's right on your bait. He's right there. Oh, there's 3 of them. This is so exciting when you get on to the school of smallmouth. Now, I got a fish on, and I can't wait to get the bait back out to get another one. That's superior, folks.
Yeah.
I love
First
Steve.
time we ever fished Lake Superior. Ange and I always, every time we drive Highway 17, we look out that big window on the left side going north and say, "Oh my God, how many smallmouth are in that body of water that nobody's touching?" And that show was our first try at it, Steve's and I. And for one day of fishing, not knowing the area real well, we had Tyler put us on, and Tyler done, but it was great. That was a fun episode. So that's on tomorrow morning, everybody. Just to let you know, at 8 o'clock on Fishing Canada Show, national
On the television network, coast to coast to coast.
You got her, boy. And I think that's about it.
I want to remind folks to get on to fishingcanada.com. Enter often on the contest, both the boat motor trailer contest and the Mercury motor contest, 2 separate issues. Make sure you check out some of the new blogs that we post. We try and put stuff up like every day.
We got the new hotspot, new Sherry Hagbog. We got Kevin Callan's blog as well. We got the top 5 Northern Ontario destinations up now. So, and we got the muskie attack from last week. If you haven't seen that yet, we got lots of new stuff up there from just this week alone. So
that went viral this week.
That went crazy, eh? Yeah.
If you haven't hooked up with that story, check it out. It's pretty incredible. Just when you thought it was safe to go into water, man, it's a real eye opener for sure. It's all available on fishingcanada.com. I want to thank everybody for joining us, our guests especially, but also to you, the viewing audience that comes out each and every week. We do appreciate you coming in. And so far, we're batting 1,000, but sooner or later, we're going to be hitting the road, and it's going to be a little more of a hit and miss with these broadcasts. We may have to change the days and the times, because from the road it might not be as simple to schedule something as noon on Fridays. We might change the time, change the day. We'll see how it goes. Right now, until that happens, hey, let's have at it. Let's enjoy it. Thanks everybody for coming out. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. Be safe, and we'll talk to you next Friday.